beyond. So congratulations for being here. I'm so happy that you have carved this time out. Everyone has had a long break. You see a couple of students on the screen here who you're going to meet in a moment, and they've been talking about the fact that they're so ready for the semester to start. So we thought, why don't we do something, given the situation in 2020, which was not what any of us had planned? Why don't we do something virtual together to give you all of these new insights to help you reach your career goals? And honestly, I could not be more excited. This is how I normally am. I have had no coffee. I have only water in front of me because we've never done this before. We've never gathered with over 400 people live and talked about these conversations. We've never brought experts from around our campus who are amazing career professionals together to share their best stuff. And we have some alumni from companies that will be joining us this afternoon too. So hang on for the ride. If you need to go on a run and pop your headphones in while you're listening, feel free, make your lunch, do whatever you need to do. We are webinar style today. That's a little different than your Zoom meetings you had last semester for class. This may be your first webinar. You cannot unmute, you cannot show your camera, but you can type in questions. So we have some wonderful people here to answer your questions. And the first person I'm going to introduce is Grant Pittman, and he is going to explain to you, tell you who he is, and explain to you how to use the Q&A feature. So welcome, Grant.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for showing up to today's webinar. I'm going to explain how the Q&A works. So we aren't going to use the chat to ask questions. We think it might get a little crazy. So we've set up a Q&A, and the Q&A should allow you to type in a question, of course, and you should be able to see questions posed by other attendees. And when an attendee asks a question, you should be able to see a little thumbs up icon. And if you click on that, it's kind of telling us it's an upvote. So it's telling us this is a question that I have too. So make sure, if you don't want to type out a long question, see if someone else has the same question you have and upvote it if you want that to be answered. And Courtney is going to be kind of going through the Q&A a lot to answer questions. And we might reserve a few of them to be answered live. So be on the lookout for answers to your questions in the Q&A section.
Thank you, Grant. Grant is a senior in economics. He is my teaching assistant. He's fantastic. He's behind the scenes monitoring all of your questions. And our amazing Courtney Mulvaney, who is a professional in the Career Development Center with years of experience working with these kinds of questions, is now waving and smiling. She will be here also to answer your questions. So be listening and looking at your Q&A. We also did a Padlet ahead of time. Some of you asked questions ahead of time on the Padlet, and we have answered those there too. So we'll pop that link in the chat in a few minutes as well, so that you can see the answer, or you can just go back to the Padlet link. You probably already have it. The next person I want to introduce is Sari Paquette. Sari is going to launch our first poll for today and say hello to everyone.
Hi guys. Okay, I'm gonna launch the poll and you guys can just answer it.
So Sari is my teaching assistant as well for career exploration, and she is studying business here at NC State. And the poll is now up, Wolfpack fans. So you get to answer which answer best describes your summer plans. We're all here because we want to achieve something in the summer of 2021. It might be a co-op, it might be an internship. Some of you are seniors, you might be wanting your first job, maybe you want to get into graduate school. So we're gonna take a look here at the answers to your questions, and we'll have a couple of fun polls throughout today to keep everyone engaged. So I think we have given everyone a nice amount of time to answer that, so we can end the polling, Sari, and we can see the results, which say most of you have not applied yet or started applying. So we've got over half of you. You're just at the beginning. I'm so glad you're here. Literally pat yourself on the back for that. You know, you're amazing to carve this time out. You could be watching Netflix and you're here. It's going to be better than Bridgerton or whatever else you're watching right now. I have started applying. Yay for 35% of you. You're on the move there. I've started interviewing 9%, and I have accepted an offer 6%. So this is a wonderfully diverse group, and we are going to help all of you get to that point where you say, I have accepted the offer. That's what the NC State Career Development Office Center is here to do, is to support you so that you could all say that. You're going to learn so many resources today, Wolfpack fans. So our students are now going to be muting their cameras and be on the back end answering your questions along with Courtney. If you would like to do speaker view, that might be your best view for this conversation this afternoon, so that you will see the person speaking. If you are watching this on demand, because we're recording, welcome, welcome. Bring your own sunshine. I always say BYOS if it is a rainy, cloudy day in January or February when you watch this, but it's actually beautiful. I'm over in the North Carolina Biotechnology Center today. You might see that on the podium. And I'm so excited that NCBC has offered us their beautiful conference space today to record this webinar. This is in Durham. So it's a sunny day here in the Research Triangle Park. And companies can come to the North Carolina Biotechnology Center and utilize this beautiful conference center. They also have a wonderful job board for you students who are in the sciences. So absolutely check that out. I'm very grateful for our employer partner that is offering up their space today. So you see one more face on the screen, Wolfpack fans. I would love to invite Anna Valegia to join the conversation. Hi, Anna.
Hello, Marcy. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today.
We're delighted to have you. I want to tell you about Anna. She is the director of the alumni career area. So when you think about graduating and you think about, oh, now I'm out in the workforce and can I utilize resources? Anna is director of alumni career services. So we brought an amazing expert to kick off our conversation on LinkedIn. And you can actually meet with her for your first year after you graduate. Plus, you can join the Alumni Society or Association. And once you're a member, you have the ability to have more conversations with Anna. And her fun fact, I love this fun fact. I was reading it on my, as my husband and I drove in for this webinar today, I was like, this is the funnest fun fact. No one's going to top this. Anna, it is that she had her baby exactly the same day as her sister had her baby. So they call themselves twin cousins. That's amazing, Anna. Thank you for being here today. And please correct anything I said about your role and tell us about LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me, Marcy. It's so good to see you. And I am impressed for how many students have selected to be a part of this event. You are one step ahead of so many others. And I think it's wonderful that you're here. And I know Marcy has a wonderful day planned for you. So yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, there's so much that we could talk about. I know it's one of the best resources out there, truthfully, for any sort of job seeker. So I'm excited just to touch on a few things. And Marcy, we can kind of go through some things together too, because I think that there's just a lot to it. And I know you have some really great videos that you're going to show. So hopefully some of the things that we talk about won't overlap too much, or they'll just be re-emphasized. But one of the things that I will just talk about really quickly with LinkedIn that I talk a lot about with my alumni is just making connections with other people who have other similarities to you. So one of the things that I think is really important is LinkedIn is a social media tool, and it's a great way to be able to reach out to other people just for many, many reasons. And I think today, one of the reasons is probably for a job search. And I definitely think that LinkedIn is a huge part of any job search strategy. It's not just about applying online, it's about making connections. And LinkedIn is one of the best avenues that you can possibly take in order to make some of those connections. So
yeah, I totally agree with you, Anna. And I'm just going to add in the fact that, I mean, you and I, we work with employers every day. And when an employer has maybe they're advertising a position, one of the first things they do is Google the applicants, and hopefully your LinkedIn, right? It's going to be the first thing that comes up. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And I worked with an alum that said it, I think the best, LinkedIn can work when you're not working, right? So when you're sleeping or you're taking a test, your LinkedIn is up, it's running, it's 24/7, it's working for you. You don't have to do anything at that moment, which I think is incredible because it's just building your brand without you having to actively do things. Now, there's a lot of things you can actively do on it, which we'll definitely talk about. But I do think that's one thing that's great is that it can really be working for you and kind of showcase your great experience and what you're wanting to do when you don't have to actually be attending a career fair or going to an interview. It's doing the work for you.
Yeah, it's so true. It's up there for anyone to find. And you know, if the students listening today are like most of the ones I talk to, I hear this so many times. Oh my gosh, I've got to get to that. I need to get that professional headshot. I need to get a headline up there. I need to post my LinkedIn. And it's just been on your list to do. And it's so important, right, Anna?
Absolutely. And your profile is actually 14 times more likely to be viewed if you have a picture. And it's easier now than ever to get one of those professional pictures done. So unfortunately, we're not doing a lot of in-person events right now, but at virtually any in-person career event, we do have the option to do professional headshots. You know, now with how nice iPhones are and different smartphones, you can get a friend to take one that looks professional, but I do think that's really important. And obviously the other things that you talked about as well are crucial, but I think, you know, control what you can. And I think getting a really nice LinkedIn headshot is a great starting point.
That is such a good starting point. And I also wanted to hear your opinion on the idea of reaching out for connection requests. I know a lot of students are nervous about who should they reach out to and how do they go about that. What are your thoughts, Anna?
Absolutely. And this is what I encourage folks to do all the time. So if I kind of have just like 5 top tips that we'll run through, it won't take too long. But the first and foremost, I think find some sort of commonality with somebody on LinkedIn. So there's a really great alumni feature on LinkedIn where you can see who went to NC State, just like your current student. Everybody on this site is also an alum of NC State. So that could be a really great way to find a commonality, or maybe it's the same type of degree that you have. Maybe you have similar interests. Maybe this person works for a company that you're dying to work for, but just find a commonality first. I mean, that's really the best place to start. And that's what networking is all about. And then when you reach out, I sort of call this the golden rule of LinkedIn. So reach out the way in which you would want to be contacted. So I know I don't want to get a LinkedIn request from somebody being like, hey, I see you work at NC State. Who can you tell me to connect with? Like, that doesn't feel great. It's not really how I want to be approached. But if they say, hey, I see you have really great experience at NC State, I'd love to connect with you and learn more about what the Alumni Association does and how it's structured, whatever that might be, you have to have a reason for connecting. But I do think that reaching out to somebody in a way that feels comfortable to you, because it can be really a strange feeling. I know some people do not like the idea of reaching out and networking and connecting with other people. So just think about it. If somebody were to reach out to you, how would you like to be approached? So that's one of the key things that I like to tell people to think about. Always customize your message. You don't want some blank generic template. No one wants that. It's very obvious. You want it to feel personalized. So, you know, give the person credit if they've been at the same company for 10 years, like say how impressive that is, or if they have a very similar degree, call that out. So just make sure that the message is customized to the person that you're trying to reach. One thing, and this is sort of getting into a little bit of specifics, but if you were adding somebody on LinkedIn and you connect and then add a note, LinkedIn does not keep up with all of those notes unless the person responds back to you. So just keep up with who you're reaching out to. I think it's a great way to kind of showcase your efforts in the job search and what you've been doing. So in case LinkedIn's not keeping up with it, that's something that you should be doing on your own. And I think it'll just show you, you'll be proud of yourself for how many people you've tried to reach out to, and the response rate, I think will be encouraging too. And then just don't give up, keep trying, keep following up. If there's somebody that you really want to connect with on LinkedIn, you can send them a message on LinkedIn. You can find them on EPAC potentially. You can send them an email. Maybe you can find their information on some other great resources that we have on campus like Career Shift, but you can definitely find other ways to follow up. So don't let that be your last point of contact. Really try to make sure that you're engaging and really making that connection, not just sending a one-way conversation. Those
are such great tips, Anna. I know that, like you said, if I know sometimes I'm lazy and I'm just like, oh, can I just click the connect button? And then, like you said, we get that generic, I don't know who this person is. Should I say yes? Should I say no? And so this is the kind of employee you'll be when you're hired. You're that go the extra mile person. And if you do that from the start with that customized request, like I love what you said about find a commonality. Maybe you both studied textiles at NC State. So now you've got a connection. And Anna, do you find most alums are pretty open to wanting to give back to the Wolfpack family and make these connections?
100%. So I work with alums all the time, and some that are looking for work and some that are employers and seeking talent. And they always want to connect with NC State alums, students, alums. They want to help. And I would say use the fact that you're a student to your advantage. This is a time in your life where people want to help you more than ever. And so I would just say use that. And they've all been in your shoes. And I will tell you, I have a group of employers that I work with that are all NC State alums, and they constantly ask me how they can help current students. They love doing that. They love to give back. And so when you reach out, and I think too, some people want to give back, but they don't always know how. Like some alums want to be able to help you. They don't know how to do that. So if you're reaching out, you can give them that opportunity, and they will be appreciative and want to do what they can to help you.
I totally agree. And I'm glad you've seen that same thing, especially during this global pandemic, Wolfpack fans. I can't tell you how many alums have been, how can I help your students? I can't imagine what it would be like to be in college during a pandemic where you're taking classes from your bedroom from high school, or you can't come back to campus. They want to help you. And we're actually having an event coming up February 21st. And Courtney's going to be popping the link into the chat where you can register for the Career Con event, kind of like Comic-Con. It's a Sunday afternoon, and we have 50 alumni coming to that event on that Sunday. And we're going to do breakout rooms in that one. We're going to let you go into the room with the alums that relate most to your career goal. Maybe you want a creative job in the future, or you want to work in a STEM field or something in business or humanities. All of these alums said, sign me up. I will be there on a Sunday. This is time I spend with my family. And that's going to be from 1 until 5 p.m. So this is meant to be a warm up for CareerCon. But we got a lot of y'all interested on your break to come to boot camp. So we're so excited about that. And you'll get more publicity on that later, but definitely put a big start on your calendar for February 21st on that Sunday to tune in on Zoom. And Anna, what do you think about following up? I think there is also a fear that you might be bugging people if they don't respond. Should you be persistent?
Yeah, I mean, people are busy, people have, and they might have all intentions of getting back to you, and it just kind of maybe keep pushing down, or some people aren't the best at managing their LinkedIn, or they don't look at it as often. So you just don't know how they want to be approached. So sometimes if you try on LinkedIn and maybe you haven't gotten a response, there are different ways to get their information, like their email address, and different ways that you can kind of get that contact. But I would absolutely say to be persistent. I think one time it's probably not enough. Like I said, people get really busy and they may have all intentions of getting back to you, and it might just get lost in their inbox. So I think one more, and obviously be respectful when you follow up, but you can just say, if you follow up on LinkedIn first, and then maybe you find their email, you can say, hey, I reached out to you on LinkedIn, just wanted to send a quick follow-up and kind of reference what it is that you want to talk about. Or follow up with them on LinkedIn, and maybe there's something new that happened, like you saw a new job posting, or you talked to somebody else from the organization that suggested that they reach out to you. So I would just say, just keep trying. I mean, there's a certain point to where you can get obnoxious, but normally you start to feel that. I don't know. Marcy, do you have a hard and fast rule of how many times? I would definitely say be persistent.
I love being persistent, and I don't think of it as being aggressive. I think of it as being assertive. Especially people socialized as women are often taught, don't be too bold. But here's the thing, you want them to see that you're going to be the kind of employee that goes that extra mile, and that if they give you something to do, you follow up and make sure it gets done. Nothing falls through the cracks with you. So I think a follow-up like, maybe once a month, just to update someone on your progress, send them an article you think is interesting, tag them in a post. That kind of keeps the relationship fresh.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to do a couple screen shares now, students. And before I do that, Anna, is there anything else you would like to add about our LinkedIn? And I'm going to show a few demos here.
No, I mean, I think just keep it updated, utilize it. It's such a great resource that I know has so many different functionalities. So there's not just applying, it's not just keeping your profile updated. Marcy's going to talk about a lot of other ways that you can use it, but just utilize it. It's a wonderful resource and has so many benefits. And I just commend everybody for being here. Thank you so much for having me. And
yeah,
good luck. And I hope everybody attends the other event too, because that is a wonderful upcoming event as well. So best of luck with everything.
And thanks, Anna. We know you got to run and do some other things. Thanks for being here. We loved having you. So the first screen share I'm showing is Ronnie, and hopefully you can see that. I'll have one of my TAs unmute if you cannot see it, because I don't see your pictures at this point. So one of the things I love about this profile is she has got a wonderful headshot. It can just be the top of your body. It does not have to show anything fancy as far as a suit that you're wearing. And she has this great background picture. She wants to do something in science, so she has something splashy here. And check out her actual headline. This is not student at NC State. That is 1 in 40,000 people. You're so much more unique than that, students. So she has pulled out these keywords that if someone was to search for her, that would pop up immediately. So I wanted to point that out as an example to you. And then the next profile I want to show you is Lucia Thomas. So one of the things I like here, she is very into teamwork. So she shows herself with a team. Lovely headshot. She's got the suit happening here, looking professional. Think about the kind of company you want to work for. Maybe you need a suit there, right? Maybe it's a tech company in Silicon Valley. You're going to hear from 2 alums in a few minutes that work at those companies and they wear hoodies. So just kind of keep in mind what the audience is. But what I wanted to show you about Lucia is her about section. So you have 2,000 characters here, students. And what I want you to do is utilize this about section to really tell your story. And Lucia did an amazing job on that. So what she does is she explains almost in a mini cover letter, and Sarah's going to talk about cover letters a little later, what it's like to be her and why you would want to pick her. Then she has this cool quote on here, and she also has some information about herself, like her strengths finder. And then she has her call to action, which says, I welcome connections from fellow NC State alumni that are building their career path. That lets people know if they should connect to her. So I wanted to point that one out. And then the next one I'm going to show you is Gabby. Now, the cool thing about Gabby, is what she did on her LinkedIn, and she got this position at SAS. So that is the job that I'm trying to remember if she got a job at SAS. No, she got a job at Qualtrics. And what I wanted to show you on hers is when we go to see all activity, we have a chance to look at her articles. You want to be active on LinkedIn. You want to be posting interesting things. So here, Gabby posted an article. She basically did an internship, and then she said she did her internship at SAS. That's right. 14 things I learned being an intern at SAS. Now, when she posts this, people can comment on it. It shows that she is, and her tips are amazing, y'all. I could spend like 3 hours talking about get there early, network, etc. But you can always look her up on LinkedIn to read this article. And then we see all the comments that people made. 150 people viewed it. And those are the kinds of examples I think will help you with your LinkedIn is write your articles. You have your own opinions. Don't be shy to share it with the world and tag other people. And then the last one I want to show you, because I see our next guest has come, which is Jeff Sakharov. And so excited you're here. Jeff, feel free to unmute and say hello really quick.
You caught me off guard. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
You're awesome. No, we're so happy you're here. Our next expert is waiting in the wings, but I wanted to show you Devon Waterman. Also chose to put pronouns on. I love that. Chose to put on some interesting things in the headliner here. And also on Devon, there is something great in his, and that is that he is constantly involved on LinkedIn. So he's putting examples of things he's done. These are artifacts. This is evidence and proof that you should be qualified for your next role. And in this case, he did a podcast interview, and we have a podcast called Wolfpack Career Chats. If one of our assistants can pop that link into the chat, you can listen to interviews, and many of our students conduct the interviews. So that was kind of a feather in Devon's cap. He's got great evidence as you look at his LinkedIn profile. Here are real pictures and things that he has done. So I love showing you those examples, students, because one of the things that's wonderful on LinkedIn is these are the tips that differentiate you, that make you stand out. And that is personalizing your LinkedIn connection requests, having the eye-catching headliner, a summary with a call to action, evidence of your competencies to prove your worth, and then actively posting so you are seen as the expert. You can make an appointment with your career counselor in our office to screen share your LinkedIn over Zoom and get that critiqued and get feedback on how that will improve. And you'll meet many of those career counselors today. Courtney is actually one of those people. She works with our career identity program and coordinates all of the work for first-year students that are making career choices. So a lot of people meet one-on-one with her to talk about career goals, career decisions, and right now we're doing that on Zoom. Hopefully, we're all going to be moving forward to face-to-face, but wanting to stay as safe as possible this semester. So that will be done all online. And Courtney, if you're there, do you want to say anything about the Q&A at this point?
Yes, the Q&A is very, very active. So know that I am doing my best to get to as many questions as I can, but I will not be able to answer all of the questions.
Okay, Courtney is working hard, and Grant and Sari might be also popping in with some answers to questions. Are there any that you want to announce right now, Courtney, before we move into our yoga break that we can answer out loud to everyone?
I think one of the biggest ones that is most upvoted right now is that, we have students who are not really confident in the amount of experience or the fact that they lack experience in the field that they're studying. So they want to know, how do they get started bolstering their resume to be relevant to their field, especially considering maybe that it's a smaller field.
That's a great one, Courtney. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that really the most important thing while you're a student at NC State is getting involved on campus. There are so many ways that you can join clubs or take specific courses that you can add those to your resume. And those are going to be things that, when I was a student at NC State back in the day, I did undergraduate research with a professor because I wanted to go to graduate school. So I knew that research was going to be important for me to be able to go into my field. But, even something as simple as joining like a psychology club, since I was a psychology major, those are all things that you can start to add to your resume. And, a lot of the questions that I'm getting, a lot of the answer is come in and talk to one of us. You have a career counselor in our office or in one of our satellite offices. And if you have these specific questions, we're going to be able to sit down with you or via Zoom, sit down with you and help you create a plan that works for you, because everybody is going to have a different interest area, a different plan. And that is the best way to make sure that you know what you need to be doing to build your resume and to kind of have a plan for your time at NC State.
Thank you, Courtney, for mentioning how active the Q&A is. I love it. Keep it coming, friends. This is fantastic. We can answer as many as we can today, but this is just the start. This is just the, 3 hours of your day. You will be able to find out how to make your appointment with your career counselor. Courtney will share that a little bit later with the EPAC link popped in the chat. And this will be helpful to you to really customize those questions and get that tailored strategy by a coach who is trained with your college to help you get to your career goals. The other thing I saw in the chat had to do with letting people know that you are open to opportunities. And I'm going to do one more screen share on that one because I really liked that question. So what I've got now is I've got the work. And when we go to the top and we go to work, we've got here the opportunity to join groups, find leads. There's so many different things hidden in here. We can also go to the jobs tab here and we can see jobs that are recommended for us. And all of these are tabs that you will want to look at and enable so that you can decide exactly how to make sure that what you're doing is viewable by other people. So if I view my profile, I can go in and I can actually enable for recruiters to see me. So this was a really wonderful question. I always recommend, if you aren't sure, and this sounds so obvious, just Google it. How to make recruiters know I'm available on LinkedIn. All of those answers are there, and people have had those questions before. And Grant, you may have also enabled that on your LinkedIn. Are you able to share your thoughts on how to make yourself viewable to recruiters?
Yeah, like you said, make your profile say open to work. And I think one of the biggest things is just making your profile as unique to you as possible. Social media is really good at helping people find you, and think of LinkedIn in kind of the same way. You're kind of branding yourself to other people. And the more you add to your profile that's unique to you, the better chance recruiters have of finding you. So an example I give is in your headliner, put one of your unique skills, because it sounds crazy, but a recruiter might just type in problem solver into their search bar. And if you have it in your headliner, your name and profile could pop up. So just do your best to make your profile like super unique.
That's fantastic. I love that, Grant. And I know you as a senior, you have gone through many of these things. So we really appreciate your thoughts on LinkedIn. All right, folks, I told you we were not going to just be sitting and listening on a two-dimensional screen. We must move our bodies. I'm a wellness champion here at NC State. So one of the things, if you ever take my class, I teach the USC 401, which Grant has taken for seniors. That class is full this spring, but the one that's open right now, Sari is TAing for, and she took, that's Career Exploration USC 202. So if you want to grab a slot in that class, you can register on my PAC portal Tuesday, Thursdays at 3. Shameless plug for that class. It's fantastic. We break it down with yoga breaks throughout class because it is impossible to not move your body and just sit in front of a screen 8 hours a day. All of us have been subjected to this with working virtually. And let me tell you, Zoom fatigue is real. So we're going to move now, and I'm just going to ask Sean, do I need to pick up another microphone, or am I okay here? Okay, I'm going to grab a microphone.
It's on the chair.
All right, so I am now moving into the yoga portion of our morning. So we are switching our camera angle. So what I'd like to do, I'm barefoot. That's the best way to practice yoga, friends. What I want you to do is just step away from your screen, and you're welcome to look at me, to follow my voice for cues. But the idea now is to stand up if you are able, or you can do chair yoga if that's more comfortable for you. You don't need any props today. All we're going to do today is just take a moment to be present together and to move our body. So just stand with your feet about hip distance, right under your sit bones. That's about 2 fists if you're not sure how far to put your feet out. And I want you to make sure your ribs are not popping. So kind of suck in your belly button just a little bit. And I want you to feel your feet rooted on the earth. Just imagine roots are growing into the ground below you, and stand as tall as you can. And as you are standing tall, what I want you to do is just feel your body. Notice any tension that you might have. And what we're going to do is interlace our fingers, which I realize I cannot do while I am holding the mic. So I'm going to demonstrate interlacing your fingers in front of you. And I want you to notice which thumb you put on top while we're standing. And you can follow me visually here. Now we're going to just bend to the right. Hopefully y'all can still hear me because I can't hold the mic while I interlace my fingers. And just feel that side body release all the way down your left side. Maybe tilt your head, the crown of your head up to the sky and feel that lovely stretch. And hold that for 2 more breaths. And just come up to center. And then what we're going to do is bring our hands forward and switch the interlacing of our thumb. So if you had your left on top now, switch it to your right on top. And we're going to, again, open up our chest and our back because we're hunched over the computer all day. And we're going to lift straight up to the stars and feel the side stretch on our right. And again, feet rooted strongly into the earth, crown of your head tilting up forward. Just a lovely stretch there for our body, then up to the front. All right, also we have to do the kind of the pat your hands and rub your tummy, but this is a different one. We're going to move our arms. So one arm is going to go back like a windmill. And I'm going to see if I can do it. The other arm's going to go forward. Can y'all do that? Just get that moving. Modify however you need. My left is going back. My right is going forward. That's super hard to do. And let's just do one balance for a second, just on your left foot. Hold on to the wall if you want, if you're unsteady today. And just again, feel yourself rooted into the earth. Tense up your glutes. Feel your hamstrings, your calves. Notice if anything is feeling tense today. And let's go ahead and do that on our other side. Just balancing, holding on to a friend if you have one there, a dog, and balancing and just being present for a moment. It's so important for us. And maybe do a couple neck rolls to end. Over to the right. And we're going to do a couple neck rolls to our left. And let's just shake it out. So shake anything out. And we're going to come back to our presentation. All right. So that was just a quick 5-minute interlude, and it is now 1:40. Again, if you're doing the laundry, if you're walking the dog, feel free to just keep us there with the audio going. Today, I am next proud to introduce our next career expert. Like I said, I have assembled not only my best friends on campus, but the most amazing career experts that exist at NC State University. Jeff Sakharov, please show us your lovely face if you're able, and welcome to today's boot camp. Thanks for being here.
Well, hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here.
We're so happy to have you, Jeff. And I wanted to just mention you are the Career Services Director over in College of Textiles on Centennial Campus. We're super jealous because you have a lovely facility over there. And your fun fact, I'm going to tell your fun fact, you are super in shape and you love soccer.
I think your information might be a little dated there, Marcy. I don't know that I'm in But I appreciate that.
Thanks for being here, Jeff. I know you love sports like I do, especially soccer. So we have that in common. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, it's been a little while for me, but I do enjoy playing casually when I get the opportunity, for sure.
And I have to quote, I don't know if any of you follow English Premiership soccer, but we're fanatics in my household. And Manchester United, our team, is now top of the table. So I have to state that today on January 13th because we're playing Liverpool next game. All right, Jeff, tell us about resume preparation. You got some thoughts here.
I do. And is my screen visible? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay.
It
so you
looks
can see it.
great. Before you begin is what
There
we
we
see.
go. Super. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time just giving some highlights about resume preparation and things to keep in mind. But I like to begin the conversation kind of addressing some challenges that I think students sometimes go into resume writing that they might not expect. And that first and foremost, you will find, if you haven't already, resume writing is subjective, and that you're going to get different opinions and different levels of feedback about things you should do and not do in terms of objectives or format or layout. And it's not to say there's one way to do it. There is, different opinions depending on the audience, and it can be a little maddening as you're trying to figure out what is the best way for me to write my resume. And the truth is, there are variations. And so you might find that you have different layouts, different formats, try different things. But the best advice, I think, is to, show it to people you trust, people that know, whether it's folks who work in the field like myself or the team in the CDC, or if you, have connections to other people that are in recruiting or HR, or maybe been out for a little while. But look to get feedback. But at the end of the day, it's your resume that you have to be happy with and ultimately go with. So don't get too frustrated when you get differing opinions. It happens. Find people you can trust, like the Career Center staff and so forth. That'll give you the
I
best
totally
advice.
agree with you, Jeff. I always find that students will come to me and say, well, my professor said this, and my dad said this, and my internship supervisor said this. And it's like, there's not a one size fits all.
Right, exactly. And I know that can be frustrating and contradicting, but the nature of it is it's a little freeing that you don't have to follow a certain template or certain format, that you can have a little bit of creativity when it's appropriate, depending on the field. But your resume really shouldn't look exactly like everyone else. It shouldn't be identical to your roommates or other folks. It needs to be individualized. The next thing I like to remind students that your resume, it's always a work in progress, that it's never done. It's something you should come back to at least once a semester, in my opinion, updating it with, your activities, organizations, experience as things change, as you move farther away from experiences that maybe you want to leave off the resume. But it's something that you should, and that carries on into your professional life. When you get out and working, your resume should always be up to date. You never know when things could change and an opportunity comes your way. It's easy to forget things if you don't update it regularly. And this way you're always prepared and poised should an opportunity present itself. So you're always going to be working on it. Sadly, I hope that's not too disappointing for folks, but you're never going to be done with your resume.
It's totally never done. I always joke, like, if you sneeze, update your resume. But, literally think about what you did over the break. Maybe you did something interesting, like you learned something new. Pop it on your resume. It might be, someone was saying earlier, like, I don't have a lot of work experience. How do I start my resume? That question came in the chat. But you could take a skill from, let's say, a club that you were in. Maybe you were in a leadership role, or from a class you took if you worked on a team. Keep that current, right, Jeff?
Absolutely. And same goes for your GPA, which often can change every semester, or, there comes a point where high school things no longer need to appear on the resume. So just always being on top of it again, so that, the worst is when you hear of an opportunity and maybe there's a deadline to apply and now your resume is not updated and there's a chance to miss out on a great opportunity because your resume wasn't, clearly updated the way you want it to be. All right, a couple other things to keep in mind. I like to think of resumes, it's a marketing document. And like any commercial or any endeavor that tries to sell you something, there's some psychology that goes into it. And with any commercial you see, the advertiser is upselling or promoting the positive aspects of their product, their resource, whatever it is that is the it they're trying to sell. And they're downplaying or negating anything that might not be a selling point. And so your resume is similar in that this needs to be marketing you and your best abilities, skill sets, and experience. And you need to think about you're capturing the attention of the reader, and that, you know, you are the product that you are, so to speak, trying to sell. And so you want to make sure that everything on there is positive, reflective of your best abilities. And when I say you don't want to have anything on there negative, you know, that can be in the situation or instance if maybe your GPA isn't as high as you'd like it to be. Maybe you don't need to include it then if it's not a selling point. Doesn't mean you're being omissive or trying to be deceitful or that an employer still can't ask about it in the interview. But if it's not a selling point, it doesn't necessarily need to be front and center on the resume. Or
Yeah, I totally agree, Jeff. You can 100% customize it. Like your template is not going to be someone else's, and you shouldn't use a template. You should make it your resume. And we're getting some awesome questions in the chat. Jeff, do you mind if I throw a few to you?
of course.
So one is about the length of the resume. We have graduate students here today. We have undergrads, and you work with employers and have critiqued so many resumes. What do you think about that?
So I think the general kind of rule of thumb or consensus is for most undergraduates, a one-page resume should be sufficient, meaning that you should be able to fit everything on one page. And oftentimes, if you can't, it could be because you're spacing, or there could be some extraneous information that maybe we don't need, or experiences we can combine. So often that can be editing or formatting. But a good rule of thumb is if you're an undergrad, you really want to aim for a one-page resume. Graduate and or master's and PhD students, there's a lot more flexibility there, you know, given you might have research or presentation experience or dissertations or teaching. So the resume or CV, depending on your target, naturally will be longer, and employers come to expect that. It can be
Yeah.
really challenging for a graduate student to try to get everything to one page, and it ends up looking very crowded.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And some, if you're in graduate school, you're probably going to have a curriculum vitae or a CV too, which is for an academic audience. And that can be multiple pages, even if you're getting your PhD. But if you're going into industry, keep it concise, whether you're a grad student or an undergrad. We also had a great question about listing volunteer work on your resume. What do you think about that, Jeff?
So I think that's a really good question. And often we think about the experience on our resume as kind of in these buckets of work experience, um, or leadership, or different categories. And sometimes we get locked into that. If your volunteer experience is significant, and it's something that's important to you, that one, you want to talk to an employer about in the interview, you want them to know about you. It shows your community service, your initiative, your connection to the larger community. I think there's a lot of benefits to including those types of things. How you prioritize them, though, can differentiate from person to person. I don't know that volunteer experience would be, if you think about your resume in terms of the most important things being near the top, volunteer experience might not be, near the top of your resume. That might be something that comes a little bit later, assuming you might have some related experience that you want to showcase, first and foremost to the employer. But I think it
Yeah,
definitely can have a place.
And it kind of depends, like you said, on the job you're applying for, because if you learned a certain thing in a volunteer role, it's just as relevant, right? You don't have to be paid for it. If it's in the job description, that's your rule book. Just don't forget, follow the rules of what this job is looking for, and you customize it each time. Someone also asked about the resume templates on Canva, because I said don't use a template. But I love your thought on that, Jeff, about using something that says, I see some of these resume templates on Canva, and let's see, that question just popped away because new ones are coming in. But what do you think, Jeff?
So I think it depends on the industry. The challenge with templates, I find, is that they often are restrictive and they lock you into a format that doesn't necessarily utilize spacing very well in the resume. It doesn't allow you the freedom to make edits that you might normally do if you were just starting with a Word document. With that said, if you're in a creative industry, like a lot of my students that go into fashion and textile design, they want to have a little bit more creativity on their resume to demonstrate their use of color, or just creative, a little bit punch here and there. So I think there can be a place, but if you're applying to something a little bit more traditional, whether it's in business or accounting or something where, they really want to understand your experience and your skills and what you're bringing, and not so much the how pretty it's going to look. I think that you're probably safer going with a regular, resume without any type of template. So I think if you're going into a creative field, there can be a place for that. But again, there is
Yeah,
a downside where
you're right. It's so dependent on the audience. And that's why, like Courtney said earlier, make that resume critique appointment. You just need to log into EPAC and you'll find a time to meet up with your person who is assigned to your college, because they're the experts. Jeff is such an expert on textiles. Coming up next, we have our expert from School of Design. I already see Kathleen is here waiting to have her conversation. Kathleen, if you're there, do you want to unmute and say anything about resumes for design students? She may. We'll get to hear from Kathleen in a minute. Let's see. It says you are muted.
Hi there, Marcy. I just went ahead and unmuted myself. And I would say the same as Jeff, that with design students, they might have a little bit more creativity with maybe a 2-column format, or graphic design students might have something in their header that's like a logo. We still stay away from a lot of color on our resumes, but a little bit of an accent color might be appropriate, like a more neutral blue in a header perhaps, but we still also stay away from too many elements that a hiring manager would have to interpret, because it's one more time that if a company is using scanning software, it won't catch it because it can't read it. And it's one more time it takes additional energy or effort for the hiring manager to understand what you're trying to communicate.
That's so important to hear from you, Kathleen. And I haven't introduced you yet because I saw you come early, but Kathleen Fenner is our amazing guest today, Director of Career and Academic Advising in the College of Design. So we're so happy you popped into this conversation because it is so specific to these industries. If you're in engineering, we're going to hear from Glenda Darrell in just a few minutes. It's much more conservative, and they're not going to be looking for lots of bells and whistles. They're going to be looking for competencies that match the job description. And then we had a question about GPA. I wonder, Jeff, what your thoughts are on cumulative. I know you addressed this a little bit, or the minimum that you would put down. And someone who's a master's degree student, should they even put it?
Sure, that's a great question. And, we know that GPA has no correlation to career success. And once you get through your first job, seldom, if ever, will anyone ever ask you about your college GPA. So hope I'm not giving the game away by telling you that, but, eventually your GPA will fall away from your resume regardless of what it is. But the general rule of thumb is typically, if it's under a 3.0, you're going to be conventional wisdom says to leave it off, and that you'd rather have that conversation with the employer if there's a story behind it. If you didn't do well, for a semester, or you transferred in, or a different major, or you just weren't ready for school, and you've gotten stronger and learned how to study and manage your time over the past semesters, and your GPA's tracked up. There's always a story behind it, and so I think that's the important part. A GPA can be a data point for employers depending on the industry. Some will use it as a cutoff for students to apply, which can be frustrating for sure. In that situation, students can use major GPA rather than their overall. It's, if you're going to do that, it's just imperative that you mention that on your resume. You don't just say GPA 3.8, you say major GPA 3.8, so that you are at least being as transparent as possible. But again, you don't want to put anything on there that might tell the employer that either, not that you're not a serious student, but that, if you have a lower GPA, it's not going to set you apart in a positive way, right? If I have a GPA on a resume and it's a 2.1 and everyone else's resumes are 3 point something and higher, you don't want to stand out for that reason. You'd be better served leaving it off and having the conversation should it come up. But that's the key. You have to be prepared if the employer asks about your GPA, what is the story behind it? And if it's not what you like it to be, what changes have you made, and what are you doing to get your hands around that?
Yeah, 100%. This is the only time in your life anyone will ever ask you. I think Oprah recently said, no one asks me my GPA anymore. But it is, like you said, a little bit of a screening process in EPAC. We've mentioned that a couple times, and some people have asked in the Q&A, how do I know who my counselor is? Just log into EPAC, just Google EPAC NC State. If you're in another window, or Grant can pop in the link to EPAC directly. And that's where you can see to make the appointment with that person. So you don't need their email. You just actually log into EPAC. We also had a question about this notion of how far back and what if you're a career changer? What do you think about that, Jeff? Career changers who have come back to college?
Sure. So I think, your experience needs to be the most important thing that the employer sees in the resume. You don't have to be locked into what we call a reverse chronological resume. And what that means is, traditionally you'd start with the most recent experience, what you're doing now, or what maybe you did over the summer, and start with that and then work your way backwards. But really, I think you're best served on your resume is if you have the most important experience, most related experience front and center and higher, closer to the top of the resume, even if it's not the most recent thing. In terms of how far you want to go back, a kind of a good rule of thumb is, when you're a first year student, it's expected that you're going to have some high school stuff on your resume, simply because that's been, where you've spent most of your time. And if you've only been at NC State for a semester or two, you haven't done a lot yet to supplant the high school information. Ideally, by the time you're out of your first year, you're engaged on campus with organizations or leadership or volunteering, whatever that might look like, where the high school stuff can start to fall away.
Yes.
Is it horrible if you have something from high school on your resume? No, I don't know that it's going to be a deal breaker if you have, Eagle Scout, for example, sometimes shows up on resumes for students that are close to graduation. I don't think that's a deal breaker for an employer. It shouldn't be the first thing they see. If it's a conversation piece, that's something you want to reference, or something that's a connection, or if it could, somehow connect to the employer and what they do. There's always those conversations about what's the intention of having this on your resume.
Such a good point, Jeff. And this is one of the things that is often hard for students, is to let go of things from high school. But we often say, if it's your first year here, we've kind of wiped high school clean because we know you did a great job. And now you get to build it up again by getting involved, like Courtney said earlier, in things on campus and taking part in leadership. There's so many virtual opportunities. Grant, you might be able to pop in the chat just the link to student involvement so that students can look and see how they can get a leadership certificate, or how they can get involved in a club that relates to what they want to study in the future. And Jeff, keep going. You have some great bullet points.
Well, I know I don't want to go over, so I'm going to put those up there, and I can just touch on a couple of these things. But your resume has one job to do, and that is to get you an interview. No one is ever going to look at your resume that you send them and say you're hired. When can you start? It's always the first step. So you need to think about it going back to that marketing document. It needs to be interesting enough to the employer that they say, Marcy looks pretty interesting. Let's call her for an interview. And that's all it needs to do, is just get you in front of that employer. And so, it's important to remember that it's a highlight reel. This is not your life story. So going back to that question about high school, you need to think about your resume as a highlight reel. This is just the most important things the employer needs to know. When you get into the interview is when you're able to expand or talk about some of these things. And to that point, if you end up having to cut something off the resume because of space, it doesn't mean you can't still talk about it in the interview or make that part of the conversation. It just means it didn't make that highlight cut, if that makes sense. So sometimes framing it that way can be helpful when you're trying to decide, what do I keep, what do I let go of especially with high school things. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, 100%. And I love how you finalize this with no room for error. I once was on a search committee, and I was reading a cover letter, which we'll talk about a little later. And it said, I am very impressed with the strong repetition of NC State University. Okay, we all know what they meant to say was reputation. But if you didn't even take the time to proofread it, what kind of a worker will you be, right, Jeff?
Yep. And similar, I've seen so many cover letters when I worked at UNC, where it would be, either NC State University, Chapel Hill, or when I worked here, it'll say UNC Raleigh. Like, people get the school wrong. And if that's the first sentence of the cover letter, you hate to say that's the reason someone doesn't get hired, because I'm sure there are many quality candidates that, save for a typing error, would have gotten a job, but that's the reality of what we're dealing with. And so, I can't stress enough of getting your resume proofread. As Marcy mentioned, schedule an appointment with a counselor, get someone to look at it, because we've all had the experience of, you read the same document you've written 20 times, and then you show it to someone else and they find a glaring typo or something that you just didn't see. And so it's
yes.
Yeah,
you're like, I looked at it so much, and you're blind. You're like, oh my gosh, I spelled my email wrong.
Right.
Jeff, I know you've got a 2:00 meeting, and we've had so many great questions for you. We're so grateful that you're here. Anything you want to end with?
I'm so glad you all are taking advantage of this program. It's wonderful to see the numbers, and yeah, take advantage of the resources that are available. We are all here to help you. We all are passionate about what we do. Hopefully you can tell that by now. And so just keep on keeping on. There's a lot of unknowns in the world right now, but we can control this part. You can control the actions and steps you're taking to be the best, most equipped job seeker you can be. So kudos to you. And yeah, thanks for including me. Hope the rest of the day goes
Oh,
well.
it's great to see you, Jeff. I'm missing
too.
you on campus. I miss giving y'all
Likewise.
hugs, all these things. But Jeff, I know you got to run. Make sure you don't end the meeting for all. Just
Yes.
leave the meeting. We had that happen at new student orientation, y'all. I'm like, I said, what technical problem will happen today? One of my panelists will like end the meeting for all, but hopefully not. Thanks, Jeff. You have a
My
great
pleasure.
afternoon.
You too, guys. Take care.
And these tips are so awesome. I mean, you students, you do not know the experts that you are sitting under the heels of today. I'm literally telling you, all of these questions you're asking are amazing. Keep them coming. Courtney, do you want to mention any other questions that have popped up that you would like to address live or would like me to?
Sure. Once again, a lot of these questions are very specific to individuals, and I'm doing my best to get you some generic answers, but a lot of the answers, once again, are going to be to meet with your career counselor. I think that, you know, you all have some really great experience. Some of you have balanced parenting with being a student. Some of you have made career switches. And I think that it is always best to have someone sit down, understand your story, and help you to be strategic about how you can, I don't want to say sell your story, but how to best present yourself to an employer, because I do think that some of the strongest candidates that I see are candidates who have faced adversity and overcome that and balance those things. So definitely go to EPAC on our website to set up your account and meet with your career counselors, because we're really cool people in general. And one of the other ones that I saw that I think is really cool, that I think is an important one, is someone asked, is there a way to tell employers that I would rather be contacted by email? Often can't answer their phone, but they don't want to miss out on an opportunity. I would not tell them this. What I would do is have your voicemail set up to be super professional. And then you can always either call them back at a time that you can speak with them on the phone, or you can send them an email. Generally speaking, when you are applying for positions, you need to play by their rules of engagement, because they currently kind of have the bargaining power. So generally speaking, I would recommend for you to just have your voicemail set up and be ready to reply and be responsive.
I completely agree, Courtney. Your opinions are so important for students to hear, and these questions are amazing. Keep them coming. And like I said, this is just the start today. If your question doesn't get answered, now you know the resources. Grant has posted the EPAC link. You can open a separate window now and find your person. If you're in sciences, or if you're in CALS, or if you're in humanities, all of these people are listed, and you can just pop. All you have to do is open your Zoom link and you get this one-on-one conversation, which is so fantastic. I saw one question in the chat that I want to address too. It was a computer science major said, can I put hyperlinks in my resume? What I would recommend is that you use your LinkedIn for your hyperlinks. That's that example I showed you with Devon Waterman, and you can type his name in LinkedIn and look at his profile if you joined late. He actually had evidence on his LinkedIn of all of his competencies. Now, like we said earlier, when we were talking with Anna Valasia from the Alumni Society, people who are hiring managers are going to Google you. The first thing they are going to see is your LinkedIn profile. And this is where, if they want to know more about you, they have the opportunity to see that evidence of your skills. So computer science major, humanities and social sciences, that's where you should be putting all of your proof. It could be a PowerPoint you designed. It could be an Excel spreadsheet that you were involved in analyzing. All of those examples are great. It could be a podcast interview you did. I know, Grant, you did a podcast interview in my class and you posted that up on your LinkedIn, right?
I think so, yeah. It's definitely something I want to feature to people who look at my profile.
Yeah, and Grant's an economics major. He's not going to be a podcast editor, but it definitely shows that he is doing things that are transferable to any industry. Employers have told us the top career competencies that they are seeking in college graduates. They have told us what they are. And I actually have a YouTube on that. Grant or Sari might be able to just go to my YouTube channel and find the link to that video, which is called Career Readiness 2.0, and pop that in the chat, because I go through in that 10-minute YouTube and tell you all of the career competencies that employers want. It's not a mystery. It's things like teamwork. You're going to hear about it from some alumni in just a moment. It's things like leadership, things like cultural awareness. And these are the things you want to prove on your resume. If you're early here at NC State, let's say it's your first or second semester, you have time to plan what you want your resume to look like by that last semester. And when you view the competencies, then you have a chance to say, well, what can I do to get that competency? Let's say I need technical skills. How can I gain that? What class can I take? What activity can I participate in? What internship can I do? So all of those are examples of how you would demonstrate that on your resume to prove that you have that competency. And like I said with Grant, communication skills is needed in every single major, from economics to political science. If he did a podcast interview and he posts it up there, an employer sees it, they're like, wow, this guy can carry on a conversation. This guy's pretty articulate. This guy's actually really smart. So you want to post those links onto your LinkedIn, and that's a really great recommendation. All right, so we have a new guest. Let's stretch. We got 3 more minutes to stretch. So last time we did our left and right thumb on top in the front. This time, what I want you to do is behind you. Okay, so I'll face you so you can hear me. But I want you to do your stretch behind you because you're all hunched over a screen way too much. And I want you to just puff out your chest by clasping your fingers behind you. And if you can even stretch out more, if your flexibility allows you, just go ahead and stretch out all the way. Might be coming out of the screen now. I'll let you see my body. Okay, so just go ahead and stretch all the way out here. And we're just blanking out our screen so you can see me, okay? Just feel that length. And then go ahead and let's just do a forward fold. Again, feet hip width distance, about 2/5, and just shake it out. Shake it out in a forward fold. Maybe bend your left leg, bend your right leg. Feel your calves, your hamstrings. Feel your feet rooted in the ground. And it's really important for us every hour that we're online to move our bodies. Let's just put our hand on our heart for a minute and let's just feel our breath together. We have this community breath that we're doing together. Over 500 of us are present at this moment. We have created this amazing community. We are starting 2021 with so much optimism to reach our goals. Just feel your lungs filling up. Take the biggest, deepest breath and suck in 2 more pieces of air. And then just slowly breathe out anything that is not serving you today. Any negative thoughts that are in your mind about your ability to reach your goals. You are here, you are moving forward. And like Jeff said, you have this amazing support system here to lift you up. If you start falling, y'all, we got your back and we're gonna catch you in the Career Development Center. Next up is Sarah Wild. Welcome, Sarah. I saw you just joined us from Raleigh, North Carolina, from your beautiful home. I don't know if I will get to see your dogs today, but Sarah has 2 beautiful dogs, and we always love when they join the Zoom calls. And Sarah is your career counselor for the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. She's been with us almost 5 years, comes with amazing experience from some other universities. One of my favorite people and super smart and has some great tips on cover letters. And her fun fact, and this is so impressive, Sarah, you bought your first house at age 30, 100% by yourself, and you closed on it the same day you were doing a professional presentation. That's amazing. So proud of you. Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks, Marcy. I appreciate it. I wish I could share with the group some video of my 2 pups, but today I'm actually in my office, so I'm excited to be with you all. I will go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, please feel free to share your screen. And the big question that we've all been waiting for, drum roll, are cover letters dead? Please tell me they are. They take so long and I don't have time to write them, Sarah. What do I do?
Great question. So for those of you that maybe haven't applied to an internship or a job yet, typically an employer will have you fill out an application, submit a resume, and sometimes they will ask for a cover letter. So a cover letter is a professional letter that allows you to make a personal connection with this employer. So we're going to talk a little bit about this today. One thing that's unique about cover letters is they are tailored to the job description in which you're applying to. So each time you write a cover letter, it will be a little bit different. So the big question is, are cover letters dead? And I say heck no. I think they're alive and well, my friends.
I'm glad you said that, Sarah, because if you said they were dead, I would be like, dang, we don't agree on that.
I say heck no. Yes, they are a little time consuming because you have to tailor them and critique them and edit them, but certainly valuable. And I'll tell you a little bit regarding why I think that. So why? Why are they not dead? What's the point of writing a cover letter? So for 2 reasons. Cover letters are just one more opportunity for you to sell yourself to a hiring manager, to a hiring team. So yes, you have your application, you have your resume, but then you have this extra document to tell them more about yourself and why you'd be a great fit for that company and that job. So you want every chance that you can get, especially in the market that we're in right now, where it's so competitive, to really share why you'd be the perfect candidate. The other reason number 2, truly dedicated candidates, applicants who really want this internship, this co-op, this full-time job, they're going to take the time to make sure that they submit all of their materials, including a cover letter. You're in competition here with other students, recent graduates, even individuals that might already have work experience. So this is a competition that you want to win, especially if it's a position that you're really excited about. So now sometimes employers will say a cover letter is optional. If that's the case, I would definitely still recommend that you submit a cover letter. So for those of you who haven't seen a cover letter before, I did want to provide an example format of what it looks like, just really quickly. So at the top, you'll have your contact information, the date, the organization's name, and if you have the hiring manager's name and title. You'll have a greeting at the top, and then it will be 3 to 4 short paragraphs. A cover letter is no more than 1 page typically. You'll have an intro, 1 to 2 body paragraphs, and then you'll have a closing. At the bottom of a professional business letter, like a cover letter, you'll write sincerely your first and last name signed. You can use a script font or you can sign your name and scan it in, and then your name typed at the bottom. So this is what the format of a cover letter would look like. So we're going to talk a little bit about strategies for success next. So these are just some key tips to really keep in mind when you're writing your first cover letter. All right, first things first. You have to format your document as a professional business letter. So keep in mind what we just saw on the last screen. One thing that I sometimes see on cover letters is that as a student, we're used to indenting our paragraphs in the papers that we write in class. We won't do that in a cover letter. So pay close attention to how you format your document. The next thing is your font style and size, maybe even your margins, should match your resume. So it looks like they're a pair, that they go together, because they do. So when an employer sits down and looks at your document, it looks professional. It's easy to read. It matches the resume that you've submitted. So we're looking at the whole package here. This middle section at the top is really, really important. The purpose of the cover letter is to highlight 1 or 2 experiences that you've had and skills that you've developed that relate to the internship, co-op, or job that you're applying to. So, for instance, if you take a look at your resume, you might talk a little bit about some academic classes that you've participated in and the skills you learned in that class. Or maybe you participated in a study abroad and you developed certain skills that would relate to an internship you're applying to. Or your involvement in a student organization where you served as a chairperson. Or maybe you had a part-time job or internship that would relate to a full-time position that you're applying to. So that is like the meat of a cover letter. So the next piece is, I know Marcy mentioned this before, proofreading. Proofreading, 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 and that means for spelling, grammar, and punctuation. So not only can your career counselor review your cover letter and talk you through potential changes, edits, etc., but this is something we also need you to do first. There is absolutely no room for any mix-up, mess-ups on your cover letter. I'll tell you, the first time I applied for a job out of graduate school, I wrote the wrong employer's name on my cover letter. I had to call the university HR department and let them know I accidentally made a mistake. And fortunately, I was able to re-upload my document. That will not always be the case. So triple check it. Even if you need to read it through one day and go back the next day, sometimes your brain needs that break. The last piece that I think is really important that we'll talk about just a little bit more is a cover letter, yes, has a certain format. Yes, there's certain content, but we want to engage the person who's reading this cover letter. It's about telling a story and evoking emotion so that you're memorable. This is not just a repeat of your resume where you're writing almost exactly what you wrote in your bullet points on your resume. So I'll give an example of this, which I got from Courtney because it was a perfect example. Thank you so much, Courtney. So instead of saying in your cover letter in a body paragraph, while at NC State, I was a research assistant in the XYZ lab where I used ABC equipment. This is well written. It says, your research position, it says equipment you used, but it's a pretty basic sentence. And we really want to tell more of a story, paint a picture. So let's look at this second example. Instead, we might try this. At NC State, while using ABC equipment in the XYZ lab, I had a strange test result come back suggesting a genetic mutation that I reported to our lead researcher. This resulted in an ongoing partnership with the lab. I also gained knowledge of this, and this, etc. So you see there's like a little bit difference in how you word what you're saying to really engage the reader in a different way. Now, punctuation, spelling, etc., there's, of course, lots of resources online that can help you do this well. But if you're struggling with the creative writing component, I would definitely encourage you to come in and talk with your career counselor, because this is certainly something that we can help you with. And then the last piece of information that I want to share with you all, because I want to make sure we have a little time for questions if we do, is you have resources at your fingertips. So if you visit our website, at the top, there is a tab called Gain Experience, where you can access our 2020-2021 career guide, which is a fantastic resource. And in here, you'll actually be able to see how to format your cover letter, what content you should include, and there's actually a sample cover letter in the guide. So if you're feeling a little lost or you're not sure where to start, you can view this right online in the career guide. So we have your back. We're here to support you. We want to help review your cover letters that you write so you feel comfortable and confident to land that interview. But these are great resources to start with. So thanks so much for listening. Do we have questions that I might be able to answer?
Amazing, Sarah. And thank you for showing this link. Sari, if you can pop that in the chat for everyone, the link to the career guide on the Career Development Center webpage. Like Sarah said, it's a 50-page Bible of everything you need to know, not just cover letters, but it's got the resume tips, it's got the LinkedIn tips. It's really all of our best stuff in written form. And we are open, folks. So if you happen to be on campus, you can physically walk in to Poland Hall. We have plexiglass, we have masks, we have social distancing, and you can also ask questions there. But a lot of the work we're doing is remote. So Sarah, we did get some really great questions, and I loved everything you said today. You're such a star. That PowerPoint was amazing, and that's why I invited you to talk about this, because I remember reading your cover letter 5 years ago, and I think you might have been living in New York. I can't remember, but or were you living in the Midwest then?
I was in Indianapolis, Indiana then.
Okay. And Sarah was, she stood out from everyone. There were hundreds of people that applied for her role, but her cover letter, I saved it, students, and I literally showed it in my class for the next couple of years because she, like she said about customizing it, she customized it so much. She actually went to the Above and Beyond to find out who the director of our office was. It wasn't posted anywhere, but she was able to research that. You could say, dear members of the search committee. And then she took every single thing we wanted and gave a specific example of how she had that. She also talked about why she wanted to move to North Carolina, which to me was interesting because I was like, oh, she's in Indiana. She's just applying everywhere. So I really love that, Sarah, what you put. And there was a question on the Q&A, and I know Courtney is working feverishly to try and answer these questions. But one question was, do recruiters read entire cover letters? And if so, like what percentage? What do you think?
So whenever I have participated in recruiter panels where recruiters talk a little bit about their hiring practices, it's really split across the board. It can be really helpful to review a cover letter because if something might be unclear on a resume, the recruiter is definitely going to go to your cover letter to try and learn more. But what I think is really important too is some of these recruiters and companies that are large in size will use applicant tracking systems to scan your resume and your cover letter for keywords. And if you don't have enough of those keywords in your resume, I hope they would come out in your cover letter. So no matter what, I would highly recommend having a cover letter along with your resume, even if it says it's optional.
Yeah, exactly. Because hundreds of people applying. You want to be that person that did everything. You don't want to be that person that did the minimum. And we talked earlier about following up. Yes, follow up, check back, be persistent. All of that shows the kind of standout employee that you will be. We all know it's a global pandemic. Let's just address the fact that the economy has had a downturn. But there are jobs. We have had thousands of students interview during our career fair, and Kathleen Fenner is going to talk about that in a few minutes, virtual career fairs. We have had hundreds of companies come to our career fairs. They are hiring. We also did a podcast with Lindsay Pollock, and I'm going to ask Grant to pop that in the chat, the link to it. She is a New York Times best-selling author, and her podcast interview was, what can a college student do during a global pandemic to find their next career option, internship, job, co-op? It is a 30-minute must pop in your earbuds and listen to the next time you're out on a walk. And I think this afternoon, it's going to be beautiful. So listen to that link. I see that that is going to be popped in the chat here by one of our TAs any minute now. They are scurrying around to find all of these links as I mention them. And I want you to subscribe to Wolfpack Career Chats because every week we have updated content. We're interviewing alumni, it's inspirational, and we're giving you some specific tips. We have one of our chats is on the 5 questions you ask at the end of the interview. That's a link that you can also listen to, and it's only 10 minutes long. And as you know, we also have YouTube. So many follow-up resources for you. Sarah, this has been a wonderful conversation. Courtney, I see you unmuted your camera. Do you have any other questions? We have time for one more.
Yes, I actually have one question that I did want to address live. So we have a question that's basically asking about how seriously should we take job qualifications. A lot of jobs say they want a certain number of years of experience, and so this particular person says they want to apply to jobs that require 4 to 5 years of experience, and they only count the PhD program that they're in as 3 years. Should they apply anyway? And my answer is yes. The reason I say yes, and this goes for undergrads, grad students, everyone. Employers are looking for unicorns. And if you are a very nice horse, you can glue a traffic cone to your head and become a unicorn. If you have the majority of the qualifications that someone is looking for, I always recommend you apply. If you feel that you are qualified and can do that job, apply. And the reason I say this is never tell yourself no. Let them tell you no. If they don't want to interview you, they won't. But don't tell yourself no and count yourself out of an opportunity just because you may not meet 100% of the qualifications. Generally speaking, most applicants don't meet 100% of the qualifications. So just know how to best sell your qualifications, which of course we can help with. But that's a big thing that I get asked a lot that I wanted to make sure to share.
That's a wonderful way for us to wrap up cover letters. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. You're welcome to hang out with us. Have a lovely day in Pullen Hall. I see you there with your door closed. And when you walk out, you'll have your mask on. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. And please don't end the meeting for all, Sarah. Please don't do that. Okay. Everyone's doing so good. My panelists are super smart. They read my emails. Just kidding. A lot of people don't read my emails, but you guys are on my email list. You're going to be hearing more. Like, let's just say you don't have Apple AirPod Pros. I'm giving them away at CareerCon. Yes, Wolfpack fans, you are the first to hear this. And if Grant and Siri can pop in the link to CareerCon, how to register, or Courtney can pop that in right now. I know when you join Zoom, the chat is erased from the earlier part. So everybody needs to know how to register for CareerCon. February 21st, giving away Apple AirPod Pros. And we're not giving away anything today, but we're giving away so much good information. So just wanted you to know that that event is going to be 50 alumni coming back to campus on a Sunday afternoon, even better than this, and it will build on this. So let's just say we're going to go to some alumni now, speaking of which. So I am going to do another screen share here, and I am going to go to a video that is of 4 alumni. Now, this video is going to give you wonderful tips on virtual interviewing. We just recorded it yesterday, although they could not physically be live with us today, but they do invite you to connect with them on LinkedIn. So if you're super savvy Wolfpack fans, you'll write their name down when it pops up on the YouTube. This is a private YouTube that no one else gets to see except y'all. So here it comes. And I am about to share it. All right. Now the sound should be working. Please tell me if the sound is not working. Here we go with your pens and pencil ready to write down all of these great tips.
My name is Tim Cabral. I am an actuary at Oscar Health, and I'm very excited to be here today to share my tips and tricks on virtual interviewing. My first tip is actually to treat a virtual interview just as you would an in-person interview. It is very easy to start fumbling around with all your notes, right? You can have all of your notes around you, a separate laptop up if you want, but that kind of makes you be disengaged from the conversation, and interviewers will really be able to pick up on that. You really just want to be your true self and treat it like a normal conversation. My second tip is to be a clear and concise communicator, right? Interviewing is where you're able to differentiate yourself from the other candidates. At first, prior to the interview, the interviewer will have your resume, which really just gives that surface level, are you qualified for this role? And really what's going to set you apart in the interview is whether you can communicate, whether you can dive into the details on your resume and differentiate yourselves from other candidates. And lastly, my third tip is, which I really think is underappreciated, is to show a genuine passion and interest for the role and company, right? In every single interview, you will be asked something along the lines of, why are you interested in this role? Why are you interested in this company? And that's a good time to really show your passion for the role, why you're interested in the role. Another way to bring across this interest is when you have the ability to ask questions, right? You always want to come prepared to an interview with a lot of questions. If the interviewer doesn't give you time at the end to ask questions, then just say, hey, I would love to ask some follow-up questions. May I get your email so I can reach out again?
My name is Sean Clem. I'm a Wolfpack alum. I work at a software company called Tipalti. And I'll be providing you with some kind of practical things that you can do in addition to what Tim said. So I think two of the things that he focused on around clear and concise communication and then showing an interest in the job are two of the most important things. So being able to come up with really good examples of things you've done and taking time to think about what those are. I think that the most important thing and the thing that resonates most with hiring managers is that you've done your research. Both in terms of your own experience as well as the questions you'll ask of employers. So going the extra mile, looking on things like LinkedIn, looking on things like Crunchbase, reading the news, and understanding what it is that you're going to be doing is really, really important as part of that interview process. I think what stands out in a really good candidate versus just an average candidate or maybe below average candidate is the way that they approach that. So I typically, as someone who interviews people via Zoom and in person, I typically leave a lot of time for people to ask questions. And when people aren't prepared with questions, that's usually a red flag for me. So even if you don't get a chance to answer them like Tim mentioned, or get them answered like Tim mentioned, having those thought out and taking the time and doing the research to do that is really important. And then, as he mentioned with effective communication, making sure you're able to sort of synthesize and provide concrete examples of the questions asked. So it's really useful to actually have evidence of when you've done something. So speaking less in generalities and more specifics and really relating back to that point. And then once you've answered the question, kind of relaying that back and saying, this was a time when I performed X. So those are two kind of practical tips that you can use in addition to what Tim provided there. Thanks, everyone. Go Pack.
Wonderful tips, Tim and Sean. It's great to hear different employers' viewpoints from different industries. And some basic things too, don't forget your lighting, make sure you're not backlit, make sure you're looking at the camera, you're not going to get interrupted. We're going to transition now to two young alumni who are going to talk about once you get the offer and you start the job, how you can be successful and really stand out as a young professional.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kaylin Bullock. I graduated in 2016, and I currently work at the Department of Justice. I am excited to give you all my 3 tips of being a successful new professional. So my first tip is to ask questions, be curious, and do not be afraid of making mistakes. I found that when I started out, the more questions I asked, the more things I got involved in, the more curious I was, the more successful I was, because I was always getting thrown into the new task, learning more, and the more I learned, the better I felt in my role. And as someone who's worked for 4 years now, I feel like I love working with those people because I feel like they can be thrown into any situation and they figure it out and they're curious and they're always looking to learn. So my second piece of feedback is actually related to feedback. So being able to take feedback, criticism is something super important, particularly in your first job. It's not something that we're all comfortable with. When I had my first performance review, understanding what I was doing well was great. I felt awesome. I was on a roll, but then also knowing what I didn't do great was kind of hard to hear, but being able to take that as a professional, understand what you can do to grow is one of the best things, because that's just going to make you a better professional and going to make you more successful at your job. So understanding that, taking that, and not being offended by it, just using it as a way to grow is something really important. And my last thing is take mental notes along the journey of what you like and what you don't like, because though you are also trying to prove yourself in your new role, you're also trying to understand what you like and what you want to do next and where you want to go. Taking notes of what you like in a manager, because you're probably going to be a manager one day. Taking notes of how you like to work, what your work style is, what your coworkers are. All of those are going to be important things to understand where you want to go next in your journey. So good luck and go Pack.
Hi, Wolfpack. My name is Shelby Clem. I am an alumni that graduated in 2012. I am currently a user experience researcher at Google, and I'm excited to be here sharing a couple of tips with you guys today. What I wanted to share today was a few tips related to how I found success early in my career and really how it still helps propel me forward today. The first thing that I wanted to share with you guys is teamwork. And this should be something that's pretty obvious, but just wanted to reiterate it here today. Being able to comfortably work in a team, to flex to different people that you're working with, and to really feel like you can be part of a team is incredibly important in the work environment. I know that for me, growing up playing soccer, that really helped me as I moved into the professional world to feel like I was part of a big group and I was working towards something. The next thing that I think is incredibly important is being able to understand when you should lead and when you should follow. Everyone loves to be the leader of something. Everyone loves to lead a team towards a goal, and it's a great feeling to have. But it's incredibly important to kind of understand when there's someone else that's taking that point position and where you fit into that group. So being able to take a step back and say, I have this role. It may not be the front and center person. It may not be the person that gets to present this to the executive. I'm actually crunching the numbers that are feeding that presentation. And that's just as pivotal of a role to play as well. And last thing that I think is incredibly important early into the career and as you continue into your career is flexibility. And this can go across so many different layers. This could mean being flexible to the type of work that you're doing. When you're starting off, you may not be doing exactly what you studied or exactly what you're passionate about, but being able to say, I'm going to take one for the team, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do this well and be flexible because I know that eventually that's going to get me to that point is a really great trait to have. It also might mean being flexible in terms of lifestyle. I know for me, I took a job where I was traveling almost every week, and it wasn't something that I had seen myself doing. But it was something that propelled my career in a positive direction. And having that flexibility and that ability to mold to different situations proved to be really helpful for me as I was moving forward. So thanks again. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and good luck to you all. Go Pack.
Love that video and love those people. So next up, we are going to be moving into virtual career fairs. And I would like to, let's see, am I at the right time? Yes, I am 1 minute ahead, y'all. I just want to say, boom, I'm killing it. So Kathleen Fenner, welcome back. We had you jump in earlier as our Director of Career and Academic Advising in the College of Design, also Secretary of the Professional Association, North Carolina Association of Colleges and Employers. Kathleen is amazing. She knows so much. She's planning a virtual career fair. Kathleen, how are you today?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen so that you can see my PowerPoint. And we're going to be talking about making the most of virtual career fairs. So let me go ahead and go to my slideshow to get this started.
And virtual career fairs are new for all of us, and we're all thinking they're going to stay because no one has to wait in line and have a problem parking, right, Kathleen?
Absolutely. There's some nice perks about virtual career fairs. And we want to talk about navigating your steps for success today to make the most of them. And so we'll focus on the phases before, during, and after. So as you are preparing your materials, we've already talked a little bit about updating your resume and reviewing that with a career counselor or a career coach. I'd also encourage you to look over the Career Development Center's tutorials, and I put in the link that you can see that they have some great information and how-tos. It's a great time to download the Career Fair Plus app or to take a look at it on your browser. Take a look at that icon that I have listed so you know the visual of what you're looking for. And right now, you can start researching the virtual career fairs that are being offered for the spring. Remember that additional career fairs are going to be added on the website, so you'll want to come back to that. So when we think about what does researching employers to create a targeted list mean, we want to identify what's the industry of this employer, what's their mission, what type of product do they produce or service do they provide? Read their job descriptions or their internship descriptions. So they connect how your interests, experience, skills, and strengths connect to this specific employer and role to help inform the conversation that you'll have. You can browse through the employers at the different virtual career fairs before you create your profile. And we'd encourage you to look at all of the virtual career fairs to see the variety of employers. So maybe you're in CHAS, but you see that another college has a virtual career fair that's open to you, and there's a particular employer of interest. Go ahead and participate in that event as well. So you can create your profile, and when you do so, you'll need to have a resume that you're including. So you will have a chance to swap out a new resume if you need to later on. But one important thing to note is that the phone number that you have on that resume, if all of the technology fails on the day of the event, the employer will have your resume from you signing up for an appointment with them. And so they'll be able to rely on that phone number. But we've had a great experience with the students enjoying using Career Fair Plus and the employers that have been utilizing it too. As you create that profile and sign up for an appointment with the employer at the fair that you're interested in, take a look to see what the time length is of that appointment. So many of the appointment times will be 10 minutes. For the design career fair, I'm encouraging the employers to have 15 minutes to be able to talk a bit longer. But some events have had appointment slots as short as 5 minutes. The amount of information you can share about yourself or the number of questions that you can ask really depends on how long you'll have to talk with them. And it gives you a chance to think about how you'll plan out what you want to communicate to them. So go into that appointment to have a conversation to introduce yourself. And we're going to talk about how to introduce yourself in just a minute. So let's talk for a second, just a deeper dive in what does it mean to research the employers that are coming to the virtual career fairs. You can use a wide variety of methods, the Career Fair Plus app, ePack, looking at going global. You can look at the company's direct websites and social media accounts. A lot of times companies, recruiters and hiring managers post a lot of information about their jobs, their internships, and what makes a great candidate, describing their mission and their goal that will help inform your conversation in their social media channels too. And also do a quick Google search of that employer. For example, the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill is a fantastic area that has a headquarters for a lot of companies. So maybe a company is moving their headquarters to North Carolina, or they're adding 300 new jobs in the next year. those are exciting developments for that employer that would, that if you discuss with them, it shows that you have an understanding of their organization. So before you actually get to the virtual career fair appointment, let's make sure to practice our introduction of ourselves. You've often heard that called an elevator pitch, perhaps. And so in this elevator pitch, if we have 10 minutes or so to introduce ourselves, we want to give them the most pertinent information, branding ourselves, helping them understand our education. What's your degree level? Are you an undergraduate, a master's, or a doctoral student? What's your program and when will you graduate? We want to talk about our strengths and our skills. And we can think about how would we spend the bulk of our time in completing the responsibilities that we would have in a job or internship with this company, to line those up to show how we add value. We can talk about our relevant experience, which might be from working, from internships or volunteering. We could even talk about noteworthy leadership, whether it was through a student organization or a community organization, and having a really strong hook where we're connecting our career goal to the organization and that type of role we would have to show how we add value is really strong. It's also a good time, as we're practicing this elevator pitch, to pick out an outfit. And we'd recommend, you've heard from those alumni, to wear a similar outfit that you would wear to an in-person event. And so sometimes we have issues with technology, or maybe that roommate that we have keeps knocking on the door, even though we let them know we have an appointment and we need quiet. And so you might have to get up. So we want to dress from our head to our toe in an appropriate outfit that represents who we are and where we're going. And we want to take away any distractions from a hiring manager being able to hear us. We really want them to hear what we have to say and what we have to offer. So in the same way, we want to organize our space and declutter. So we want to declutter our desk so that there's not open drinks that we could knock over. We don't want to have a lot of distractions in front of us. And we also really want to make sure our background is nice and simple. We want to make sure that if we have a bookcase, that our books are lined up nicely. So, a lot of us as students, we're in situations where, you might have a room and that operates as many things for you, right? But take a look to see what's behind your background and try to simplify it. In this picture, we have someone that's got a window. And so and that window is to her right when she's got her camera towards herself. We don't want to have a window in our background because that puts the light behind us instead of on our face. So if we have a lamp in front of us to either of those sides or a nice overhead light, it helps bring good lighting to our face so that they can see your friendly, approachable, excited face that's really enthusiastic to be talking to this employer at this event. And we want to test out the technology and the audio in advance of our appointment time to make sure that we've updated the software and that our audio is clear. You might even check out your internet speed. Okay, so now we've prepared and we have a plan and we get to the day of the event. So we'll log on to Career Fair Plus and we go to that virtual career fair. And we're keeping in mind that this appointment is in place of going to a physical event and walking up to a table and talking to an individual person. We'll have this appointment with an individual representative from a company. And the system, I believe, makes you have 10 minutes between each of your meetings. So you'll have plenty of time to get from meeting to meeting. So you'll go to that virtual career fair. You're going to click to join the meeting at the time of your appointment. and then you'll knock. So once you've knocked on you've placed a knock with that employer, they will then bring you into the conversation. So keep in mind that they might be wrapping up a conversation with a student who had an appointment before yours. Don't worry if you have to wait a minute or two. Just wait for them to allow you into your individual meeting. You might double check if it's been a little bit longer to make sure that you have the right appointment time with the right employer, but just wait. We'll make eye contact, strong eye contact with the camera. I know that can be hard to do in the virtual meeting, but we want to treat the camera's lens like their eyes so that we can deliver a really strong elevator pitch. And as you continue your conversation with this employer representative, we want to give tangible, concrete examples of our strengths and skills. So it's great if you say that you have a strength or a skill or experience, but when you walk them through a tangible example, it makes it real to them and it gives them better in-depth knowledge of what you're capable of and how you could be successful with their organization. And that way, with examples, we can connect our goals, what we've done in the past, what we've learned in our courses, to the company and the position. It's so important to be able to ask tailored questions. So keep in mind that if you have a 10-minute appointment time, you won't have a chance to ask all of the questions that you might have about a role and about a company, and that this is the first stage of your communication. You're in the first stage of the selection process. So you're trying to tell enough about yourself and learn enough about the role to want to keep moving forward and to keep them moving you forward in the selection process. So as you're creating tailored questions before your appointment, you want to think of things that give you insight to the role and into the company that can't be answered by looking at a job description they have posted or by looking at their company's website and social media. We want to ask questions that get to the heart of what our values are and helps us understand whether this is a great fit for what we're looking for and whether our strengths and skills match up with the type of ideal candidate that they're having. You might ask questions that help you understand what types of projects you'd be working on in your first 90 days. It could be interesting to ask about the culture of the organization or the way people communicate or collaborate together. Right now, many companies have had staff working remotely. So it'd be interesting to know what technology or ways of staying connected that staff have utilized while they are working remotely. So these are some of the types of questions. I'm sure you can come up with great questions of your own too to help inform what you need to know as you're moving along in this selection process. Asking questions helps show the knowledge that you have of their organization because you can dive deeper into a topic you've already talked about, and it really shows your interest. It's so helpful to ask for the company's, that employer's representative's contact information. You might not be able to get it any other way. So if you've come to an on-campus event in the past, you're likely to have asked someone for their business card. So in lieu of being able to get a physical card, you'll want to make sure that you ask for their contact information. As you start your conversation, whether you're at an in-person event or a virtual event, it's helpful to jot down someone's name as you start the conversation, maybe even to utilize it right away in your conversation by addressing them by their name in replying to a question. For example, you say, well, thank you, Tina. That's a great question, and then answer it so that you familiarize yourself with their name. So let's talk a little bit now about after the appointment. We've delivered on our elevator pitch and had a great conversation with that employer. And we've gotten their contact information. So now it's time to send a follow-up email. This shows appreciation. You can thank them for their time in participating in the virtual career fair and for talking with you about their opportunities. And this allows you to start building your relationship with this employer, whether you're moving along in the selection process for this current role that you're seeking or in the future. We want to move away from transactional thinking to really thinking about developing a relationship. So this is a nice way of looking at networking as building relationships and building rapport and creating yourself a community of people that you can reach back out to in the future. On this current email, as you're following up, attach your resume. It can be the same resume that you gave them on the Career Fair Plus app, but by sending it directly to them now by email, it helps jog their memory about what your qualifications were. And we can also provide an update on our application with that organization. So perhaps in your conversation, you talked about specific roles that they had posted or would have posted shortly, and you would have applied online, and you can let them know, thank you for recommending that I apply for X position. I've done so now. Just wanted to let you know so that you might be able to take a look at my materials. So this helps you get noticed. So instead of just being one of those candidates in the applicant tracking system, you got their email and you're sending them this specific note, which really reinforces your interest. And it also confirms your ability to follow through, which is a quality that everyone wants in a candidate. So you've met those employers, representatives, and you can connect with them on LinkedIn. I think earlier you talked about personalized notes that you could create as you're requesting to connect with others. This gives you a chance to see what that employer representative posts. It might be information about internships or jobs or noteworthy news about the company. It can be tips for job seekers often. That's a lot of the material that we see that they post on LinkedIn. And then in the future, hopefully this appointment will lead to moving along in the selection process. And if you're interviewing in the future, you can remind the employer how you connected and which virtual career fair at NC State that you participated in. So that's a little bit about my best tips for making the most of the virtual career fairs in the spring semester to get you through the before phase when you're preparing, through the event itself, and then afterwards to follow up.
That's fantastic, Kathleen. Wonderful. And we're so happy that you could pop in today for a few minutes to lend your expertise. Let's just say, students, howl back with a big Wolfpack thank you for Kathleen Fenner. We can't hear you, but we know in your house you're howling.
Thanks for having
back
me,
to us.
Mercy.
Hi, Kathleen. That was awesome. I popped a few things in the chat, folks, with some videos that will help you to follow up on some of the wonderful tips Kathleen mentioned about how to communicate with confidence, a podcast interview we did with Kelly Laraway, which is the director of our employer relations on virtual career fairs. We're all learning this with you, right, Kathleen?
Yeah, absolutely. And those are great videos that you're referencing. I strongly encourage students to take a look at those fantastic resources.
Thank you, Kathleen. Have an awesome day. All right, students, next up is a poll. This is a very important poll. It is a very serious poll. So we started our afternoon off with a poll about the confidence level you have about your future. If you've already accepted a job offer, if you started applying, if you're in the middle. Sari is now going to launch our next very serious poll. it's important, you're all staying with us. There's so many of you still here. It's important that you now respond to our next poll, which is about to be launched. Oh, it's the picture. Okay, perfect. So this relates to the poll. So students, please examine this photograph. It's important for you to look at it very closely. One of these is my dog. I will not mention who. And one of these is the dog that belonged to two of the alumni on the panel. And one of these is the dog that belonged to two other alumni on the panel, who I know pretty well. All right, so, oh my gosh, you guys, you're killing me. I have to get this live on my Instagram feed as the results are coming in. This is wild. The Aussie is in the lead, but it's so nice. It's so neck and neck. The Sammy is so close behind. The results are still coming in, y'all. I am super excited to see what the result is. Wow. I'm crushed. I can't go on. All right. So the Aussie won 42% to 39%. It is a beautiful dog, right? It really is. And I love it. All right. Thank you for your votes. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm going to have to share results. Oh, did I share it? Okay, there. You see, it's so close. All right. I just want you to know that the Sheltie is elderly and y'all are discriminating against the elderly. So let me now move on to the next screen share that I am going to do before I introduce our next guest. The next screen share is professional yoga, even better than me. So I am going to share this with sound so that you can now take a 5-minute break. If you need to run to the restroom, you can run to the restroom. But again, it's so important to take care of your body. It's so important to stretch. It's so important to move. So we are now going to do our yoga, and we're going to do it in the chair this time. And I'm going to pick one of my favorite yoga instructors to lead us in. Oh, that's 15 minutes. Dang, I can't do that one. I really need to do 5 minutes. I want to do 15 minutes, but we got to get to some more career information. So we're going to do a chair class with Aditi right here.
What's up, Peloton? I'm Aditi. Welcome to Peloton Yoga. We're here together today for a 5-minute chair yoga class. This is part of our Yoga Anywhere series, which is exactly what it sounds like. You don't need anything for this class other than you and a chair to sit on. Hopefully your chair does not have wheels. If it does, please be really careful about all the movements we're going to do. And as always, feel free to modify any way that you need to. We're going to start with a seated cat-cow. So you can scoot up to the edge of your chair. I'm already there. Take your hands onto your knees. Make sure your feet are right underneath your knees. They feel nice and solid. And as you inhale, you're going to pull your chest through your arms, lift your gaze, and find a back bend. As you exhale, you'll do the opposite. Curl in towards yourself. Think of that Halloween cat shape. Inhale, arch, look up. Exhale and round. Breathe in and arch. And let it feel good. Exhale and round. We've got 2 more of these. Breathe in, arch. Exhale, round. Inhale, open your chest. Feel the collarbone spread. Lift your gaze, space for your throat. Exhale, round. Curling everything in towards center. Inhale, come to neutral. Find your nice, solid, comfortable seat. You're going to take your hands out in front of you and interlace your fingers all the way to the webbing, and then flip your palms to face forward. And so what I want you to make sure you're doing as you flip your palms forward, is make sure that you're not pressing through your fingers, but you're pressing through your wrists. So you feel this wrist extension happening, and then all the way through your arms is really opening up. Lift your arms up. If they don't come all the way back towards the back of your ears, that's okay, but reach up from your seat, out your wrists, pull your belly in, and then you're gonna lean over to the right. Come back to center, lean over to the left. Come back to center, take your arms forward and flip them to face you. Notice which pinky is on the bottom and switch. So this is my right pinky, I'm gonna switch. Now my left pinky's on the bottom. Reach your arms forward again, pressing through your wrists. Reach the arms up. Set your seat down. Wiggle your waist up a little bit longer and then lean over to the left. And over to the right. Back to center, release the arms forward and down. Now we've opened up our side body and our spine. We're going to move a little bit into our hips. So I want you to take your right ankle over your left knee, flex your right foot, and you're in your mind, you're energetically pressing that right leg away from you. So the right shin is pressing towards the floor. Try not to move your seat too much as you do this. Take your right hand to your right knee, reach your left arm up. You're going to lean over to the right and then start to make your way forward until you can take your left palm to your shin and then open your chest up. Think of that cow shape. So think of almost a little bit of back bend. Open your chest, look forward, send your seat back, and feel space happening in that right hip. Good. Come all the way up. Put that right foot down. We'll switch sides. Left ankle comes over your right knee. Really press that leg away from you. Your left hand's going to come onto your knee. Right arm reaches up and you're going to lean over. And then make your way forward and down until your right palm comes to your right foot and open your chest forward. Good. Breathe. One more inhale. And exhale, come all the way back up. Step your left foot onto the ground. Now you're going to widen your feet out to the sides and we're going to forward fold inside legs. So what I want you to do is do your best to hinge at the hips. So you're almost keeping your low belly and spine pulled in so that you don't round through your back. You can keep your hands on your hips if that's helpful. Let yourself come all the way down and then go ahead and round your spine. Release your head down towards the floor so the back of your neck is nice and long. It can feel really nice here to interlace your fingers at the nape of your neck and give yourself a little bit of traction there. We hold our head up all day, create a little bit of space in your neck, and then maybe your arms angle down or you hold opposite elbows. Create some space in your side waist. Some space through the back of your body. And then hands come all the way down towards the ground. And you're slowly going to imagine that you could put weight into your seat by stacking one bone on top of the other, slowly rolling yourself all the way up. Shrug your shoulders up towards your ears, release them all the way back down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Bring your feet underneath your knees. Pull the shoulders up towards your ears, back and down. Shoulders forward, up, back, and down. Inhale, take your arms out to the sides and up. Bring your palms together at your chest. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're feeling a little more.
Yay, Aditi. She's so awesome. And it's great to have a professional. I was doing my best though with y'all. But what I wanted to tell you too, the interesting thing is with yoga, you have to take a break from your screen. You have to. Every hour, you must move your body. Please know that that is important to do. And I'm looking for Glenda. Glenda, you were here.
Glenda's internet dropped out, but she is working on it.
Oh, she's coming back in a minute. Thanks, Courtney. No worries. Yes. So while Glenda is coming back, I'm going to tell you again the importance of this mental health and physical health. You can find these YouTubes anywhere. You can go directly and just type in yoga. I subscribe to Peloton, so I do that one pretty frequently. Meditations. We also mix those into my class. And like I said, I got a few seats left in USC 202. Sari, would you like to unmute and tell our guest today why that class might be cool to take and why you took it and what you learned?
Yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do going into my sophomore year, and so I decided to take it in the fall. I'm so glad that I did. It was like the class was such an eye-opening class. I learned so many different things. I didn't have a LinkedIn before I took the class. Now I do. I didn't know what a cover letter was. I didn't know how to make a cover letter. And obviously like I learned that in the class, and if I could recommend everybody taking that class, I would, because it helped me so much prepare for interviews and just like internships. So I really recommend taking it.
Thanks, Sari. It's great to have you share that from a student to student perspective. Courtney also gets very involved in a program called Career Identity. And I want to give her a chance to unmute her camera and microphone if she can, to tell everyone who is trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, which is literally everyone in their 20s. I call it your trying 20s because we try lots of things and it feels trying. Why do you think career identity would be cool to take advantage of, Courtney, and what is it?
Career Identity is really a great program for, like you said, students who are trying to figure out, like, what's my next step? What do I want to do with my major? What do I want to do with my career? And then, like, how can I make a plan to get there? I know there's a lot of anxiety around trying to make that decision and feeling like, what if I don't make the right decision? Um, Spoiler alert, there's a lot of right decisions for most people. So that program you can actually access on our website, and it will take you self-enroll into a Moodle project space. And the Career Identity program is open to all NC State students. It's typically geared more towards first-year students, but let's be honest, like when I was a student, I was a senior still trying to figure out, okay, well, what am I doing? I had my major, but didn't exactly have my career path quite yet. So that's just something that exists. You'll do activities. There are videos for you to watch. It's all self-paced, which I think is another really great piece. So I used to teach USC 202 as well, and it's a wonderful class. If you have the free electives to take that, I highly recommend it. But if you don't have the free electives, Career Identity is a really great fit for you because of the fact that it does have a little more flexibility. You're not going to a class, you can do it when you want. And then you have access to Career Identity coaches and Career Identity advocates on campus. So you can meet with me or with other people who are trained to know kind of what you're doing and what you're going through. So really it's just a support system. It's a program to help guide you through, because like, how do you even start making that decision? How do you research? What kind of things are out there? I mean, it just seems so large and nebulous that it can be overwhelming. So we kind of give you a little structure around it so that you're left not guessing maybe what your next steps need to do, but you're feeling more like you know yourself and you know what you want out of your career. Because at the end of the day, it's all about helping you have a happy life after NC State and have a high quality of life. And a big part of that is being able to know what career you want. And then the other piece with events like this, with Pack Pros, which is another great video series we have, but helping you know what you want to do and how to get there. That's really everything that we do in our office. So if you do have questions about career identity, I will pop my email in the chat for you. But that's a general overview of it, and I hope that you'll take advantage of it.
Thank you, Courtney. And I appreciate you mentioning Pack Pros as well. If you can put the links to Career Identity and Pack Pros in the chat, then students, as a follow-up, you can go straight to these sites. And Courtney is too modest. She worked all summer updating these sites. She gamified them. So you get to compete and try to get to the top of the leaderboard. There'll be prizes given away. Some of you may have heard we're giving away Apple AirPod Pros at CareerCon February 21st. That's a Sunday. So we're going to pop that link back in the chat for any of you that may have gone away and come back and not seen the chat. So you'll be able to see how to get into Career Identity, Pack Pros, and if you don't know what that is, you'll click the link and figure it out, and also the link to CareerCon registration. All right, so all that is about to come into the chat. We have a new guest that just joined us. And Courtney, thank you for doing all that copying and pasting. You're doing amazing. I'm so happy you're here. Brian Newton, welcome. How are you today, my friend?
Marcy, good to see you. I'm doing great. How's the event been going today?
The event is going amazing. We're having such a great chat. We've had experts from around campus joining us all afternoon long from every college. And I was telling students, we've never done this before. We have never gathered hundreds of people in a virtual space where we have all the top career experts from our campus together to impart wisdom. Isn't this fun?
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I'm glad to be able to participate in it today. And wow, what a great event that you're offering to everyone across campus. And I look forward to learning more about how you pulled it off, and and obviously offering some insights into whatever I can do to help the students.
Yeah, well, that's why I invited you to pop in, Brian, because when I find out that hundreds and hundreds of students registered, I was like, yikes, I need help. So Brian Newton is wonderful. He is the director of career at the Career Center and undergraduate programs at the Poole College of Management. So we know we have lots of management majors out there. Brian has worked in this field for years at multiple universities, interacting with employers, supporting students throughout this process. Brian, you are an expert, and thank you for making this time. And our conversation today is really about just now, January, new year. Everybody is pumped. They've got their goals set. They're like, I'm going to find an internship. I'm going to get hired. I'm a senior. I'm going to graduate during this pandemic. I'm going to get into grad school. I'm going to get a 4.0, whatever goals people have. Everyone is ready with this new, fresh year. What are some of the things you think students should do between now and May to reach their goals, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely, Marcy. And I think there's a lot of things, when we start this new year and have all these great new goals. I think even in this virtual space, there are a lot of things that we can do as we all, continue to adjust and keep moving forward in what we're doing. Events like this that you're having on campus and other events that are held across campus and other colleges, I certainly think it's important for students to look on the websites, look on EPAC, just take note of all those different kinds of events. So for example, in PCOM, we've got things coming up in January and February. We're actually doing 2 weeks of what we call career days, January 25th through the 5th of February, culminating really in our fairs, our virtual fairs for the students in the Poole College of Management. So
that's
be
exciting,
aware.
Brian. And
Yeah,
are these open to all students? Because I know Kathleen Fenner was just here talking about how to get ready for virtual career fairs.
Yeah. So those events are open to all students on campus. We've got we call our Employer Insight Series events, where employers are offering really virtual information sessions during those 2 weeks and even throughout the rest of the semester. And then, for example, our fairs, of course, students are welcome to participate in those virtual fairs that are on the 4th and the 5th of February. Supply chain operations really focused on the 4th, and then really overall business type majors focused on the 5th of February. And again, using the Career Fair Plus platform. So, in January, I think it's important now for students to really take note of all these different events that are across campus. Keep a list of those, add them to your spreadsheets, whatever you're doing as far as organization, but they're in EPAC, they're on websites, seek those out all across campus and, make your schedules and start participating in those.
Yeah, there's, like you said, there's so many resources, and we're all over campus. Like Brian is over in Nelson Hall, and I'm in Pullen Hall, and Kathleen's over in Design School, and Jeff Sakharov's over on Centennial, and we're all working together. This is the thing, is we have this safety net. We have been trying to pull in useful resources, and you're here today. Hundreds of you are here today. All you need to do is check out these websites. Just say once a week, I am going to make sure that I'm up to date, and pop them in your calendar. That way you're going to take advantage of them. Right, Brian?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, it's a lot going on, and it's a lot to keep up with. So, take note of them. Again, use the resources that we talked about as far as trying to find those events, and keep checking back if things are changing. We're still adding to our schedule. I'm in the process now of communicating with employers that want to be engaged with students on campus and in our college. So keep checking back because schedules are changing. I think too, Marcy, as we move into, February and begin to get into the rest of the semester, I think things like, reaching out to alumni. I think that's critically important. You may have already talked about that, but that's one of the, obviously key networking things that I think students should be doing. We're all in this kind of virtual boat right now together. It's we're all doing our thing from home and that kind of stuff. And alumni, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of what I like to call champions out there who are willing to help you as a student. And so it's a matter of reaching out to them and either through LinkedIn, through messaging, or if you have their company email address. But find some champions that are willing to have some really good career conversations with you as you get into February and March as part of your networking process. and learn more about what they're doing, how they've had to do the pivot during this pandemic, and how their business is going, and what suggestions would they offer to a student? Doesn't matter what your major is, to help you move forward in your career. Where are the internships possibly? What's going on in the business? I think that's another important thing. And again, I think alumni and others are willing to help break up their day with a good conversation with you.
I'm so glad you said that, because we did hit a little bit on that earlier in the day, but I want your opinion, Brian, because I think students sometimes feel intimidated to reach out. Let's say they go to LinkedIn, like we said earlier. They do the filter for NC State alums. They do the filter for maybe a keyword that's a functional job they want. Maybe they want to work in analytics, or they want to work in San Diego, whatever filter they use.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I found 10 alums from NC State that are doing the work I want. Maybe they want to work at Google, and they find, we actually had a Google alum here earlier that they can now connect to on LinkedIn. But if they didn't have that, and they're scared, what do you recommend about how to do that and not be intimidated?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think, if you can just go ahead and begin to draft a message to that particular individual. And we refer a lot of our students to use Career Shift. And I don't know if you've talked about Career Shift any, that they can access through EPAC. But the real beauty in that is that you can generally get company contact information. So instead of trying to message them through LinkedIn, you can actually generally get their company email address. Develop a really nice subject line that's not going to get deleted. Something like, NC State communication student seeking your advice, or NC State business student or marketing student seeking your feedback, or assistants doing some career research. Okay. Again, I think a lot of people are in this kind of helping mode, and there's certainly, if an alum, willing to help current students, and craft a really short, nice, explicit message about who you are and what you're seeking, and ask them if they could spare some time to have a conversation with you. And obviously you're keeping track of all this, you're putting your spreadsheets and remaining organized, but you may have to, ping your message a couple more times to maybe that alum to see if they'll respond. But I think you'd be surprised that a lot of alumni and a lot of professionals will respond, because they feel like they want to do what they can to help others, especially those that might want to go into their same career fields.
Yeah, I'm so glad you hit on Career Shift, because we had not talked about that yet. And I just popped a link into the chat so students can follow up with Career Shift. How is that different than just finding someone on LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, so, LinkedIn, you've got company information, you've got their job title, those kinds of things. But again, you don't per se have their explicit company email address or their phone number. And so that's, I think, the real beauty of Career Shift, is that generally it'll give you that information. It's a marvelous tool. It goes out on the web and it finds all this information for you and brings it back into your search query. And then what's really cool about Career Shift is then you can export all this great information into spreadsheets. So if you're searching for technology contacts, finance contacts, communications contacts, engineering contacts, if you want to even narrow your contacts down to specific companies or regions of the country, I mean, you can do that. It's really a nice tool, and it's something that our business students use quite heavily, and we promote it quite heavily in Poole.
And you know what? I feel like it's the best kept secret, because it's there, it's in EPAC, and now everyone knows how to log into EPAC and set up their profile and activate their accounts and, upload their resume. They all have that link, and maybe Grant can pop that link in again, just because some people may be coming and going. But EPAC is awesome, and that's where they find Career Shift. And students, if you don't do anything else after today, check that link out. I'm so glad you said that, Brian. What else are you thinking about students should be doing to reach their goals?
Yeah, I think as well, if there are events that are maybe offered by companies or other organizations that might be off campus, take a look at those. There are other kinds of, career activities, virtual career activities that are being offered within communities. So what's the Raleigh community promoting, or what is some other areas of North Carolina promoting, maybe in your hometowns? You'll see more and more virtual kinds of fairs and expos and those kinds of things. So can you participate in any of those? Another, I think, Marcy, a secret that not so much a secret, but I think a strategy that not a lot of students think about are those very important professional organizations and associations. Okay. All of our professions, we have organizations and associations related to our fields, including us in career services. Well, as a college student, why not find out who those organizations and associations are, where the local chapters, okay, reach out to the leaders within those chapters and say, hey, can I participate in a virtual meeting? I'm a student, I'm pursuing engineering, mechanical engineering, finance, whatever, and I'd like to sit in on one of your meetings. They're probably not going to say no. And it's a great networking opportunity. And hopefully maybe they'll introduce you and say, hey, this is Brian Newton from the Poole College of Management. He's a finance major and he's sitting in our meeting today. You know, what another great way, I think, to network with professionals that are in the field. When we could do this in person, I've asked a lot of students to do that and have reported back that they've come away with stacks of business cards from these in-person professional chapter meetings that they go to at lunch or breakfast or whatever.
Yeah. And now it's going to be LinkedIn connections because no one's holding cards anymore or shaking hands. So it's such a great idea to just Google whatever you want to be when you grow up. Like for me, I'm a career counselor. So you can be like professional association in career counseling. And you're right. These professionals, they're so excited to talk to students. It's like you're a breath of fresh air. You are the future of our profession or whatever it is you want to be. It could be an engineer, it could be a scientist, it could be a textiles designer, but all the people that work in those fields, they get lit up when it's time to talk to a student and give advice, right? It's fun.
Yeah. And that's right. Bottom line is, you know, folks like us that are in professional occupations and organizations, we really like to talk about what we do. What do we enjoy about it, and how do we get to this place? You know, how do we get to enjoy so much about our job? And I think that's really what students want to try to focus on, is try to find those champions, again, that I call them, that really want to share with you what they do, why they do it, how they do it, and how you can be more involved in what they're doing.
I love that. And actually in my career class, Grant was my TA, and he did an interview with Gordon Hecker, who has designed this method called the Hecker method of networking. And it really helps students to realize networking is not a bad word. And Grant, was there anything from that you'd love to summarize? Because you practiced some networking. You were scared, right?
Yeah, I think kind of what Gordon preaches is kind of preparing yourself and setting kind of a networking mindset beforehand. You have to learn to accept and deal with rejection. And of course, it always sucks, but you got to keep your chin up. And then just being really methodical in your approach, and take it day by day and maintain contact. Don't just reach out once, continue building your network out and developing those relationships.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Grant, if you want to pop that podcast, actually the podcast hasn't come out yet. It's about to come out, y'all. So once you subscribe, Grant's going to put Wolfpack Career Chats back in the chat. You can subscribe if you just look on Spotify, whatever you listen to music on. But his interview with Gordon is coming out. And I'm so proud of Grant because he practiced it. I was like, all right, you're going to be my TA. Guess what? You're going to do this stuff and see if it works. What do you think of that, Brian?
No, that's awesome. And Grant did really touch on a really good point, is just being persistent with your networking. I mean, yeah, you're going to have folks that don't respond to your emails. And as I said, you might have to ping them a couple of times. That's okay. Move on to another alum. Move on to someone else at that company. I think you'll find plenty of people that want to talk with you, especially virtually. And just, with anything, put your toe in the water just a little bit with that. And as you begin to be more comfortable, you'll begin to wade out in the water just a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. You certainly find out strategies and things that work well for you. And then you can start to utilize that. And these networking skills that we're talking about are things that you're going to use really for the rest of your life. Very valuable skills. And what you're learning from this particular virtual conference today, I think is again, skills you're going to learn for the rest of your life and use for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's kind of a nonstop process. We talked about earlier, Jeff Sakharoff mentioned like your resume is never done. And then Sarah
right.
Wild mentioned, you know, you're always updating your cover letter. And Kathleen Fenner talked about how you keep interviewing at all these virtual career fairs. So it is an ongoing process. Brian, we're so happy you got to pop in today. Is there anything else you want to leave our students with? There's hundreds of them listening and more on demand once we place the recording up.
No, I want to thank the students for participating in something like this. You know, these kinds of things, you know, as far as career information that you're receiving, it's not something that every student takes advantage of. And I think for you all that are here today and that have been participating, you certainly begin to set yourself apart from other students. By learning what we're sharing. It's not necessarily rocket science, it's just stuff that we have learned over the years that we've seen that works well and that you can put in practice, and we know that you can succeed as well.
Thank you so much, Brian. How back to Brian. Wolfpack, thank you. Everyone's howling at their house, Brian.
Right.
Have a great afternoon. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Marcy. Good seeing you. All right,
students,
bye.
This stuff is, we have you from all majors today. We have you all levels from bachelor's, master's, PhD. We have seniors, we have freshmen. You have taken the first step today. I'm like, my heart is so big because like I've never tried this before. I was certain something would blow up and we're like cranking. We're doing so good. And my next guest is here. Given there would be a technology problem, Glenda had it, but she made it back. So, so ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Glenda Darrell. She is your career counselor for the College of Engineering, and she actually lives with a mechanical engineer. Welcome, Glenda.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, congratulations to all of those who are attending and hanging out with us this afternoon. My topic this afternoon is answering the question, should you take a gap year? And so I am going to share my screen.
Yes, a lot of people during the pandemic are like, maybe I should just postpone everything in life, right, Glenda? So we're not quite seeing we see a black screen right now. But if you're debating if you want to take a gap year, this is a big question. What would you do during your gap year? And how would you spend your time and how will that look to employers? So Glenda, we're not seeing your screen yet, but if you just want to talk about it, that would be awesome.
Okay. Well, continuing on to talk about, should you take a gap year? When you think about taking a gap year, one of the things that you need to think about is that a gap year is not a
I am here, just waiting for Michelle to join.
Is not a year off. That a gap year is more like a year on. And so whether you take your gap year during your college years or between college and graduate school or before you enter the workforce, some people may have already taken a gap year between high school and coming to NC State. Either way, you need to think about what is your plan. And thinking about taking a gap year during a pandemic presents its own pros and cons. And so you and your family need to assess those pros and cons and think about how it would impact you. So ask yourself some questions. If a gap year is more like a year on than a year off, what are your goals for that gap year? Thinking about your field of interest in the midst of a pandemic, would it put you at an advantage or disadvantage to delay entering the job market or going to graduate school? Do you want to explore a career path? Do you want to pursue a personal challenge or spend a year in service? So all of those are questions that you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about what is going to be my gap year plan. So thinking about what are some of the pros and cons of a gap year. So thinking about the advantages of doing a gap year. Some people doing a gap year means greater success for them in school when they return to school. Some people need that break, and when they return to school, they are more mature, they're more confident in themselves, and it translates into more success for them. Also, as I said, exploring career paths. So informing your next steps, a career path can help you determine what career path you may want to go on. I read an article recently about different ways that people were taking gap years. And one high school student decided to take a gap year before coming to college because he decided that he was interested in the medical field, and we're in the midst of a pandemic. And so he decided to take the year and work as an EMT. And so not only did he explore this career path and getting exposure to healthcare and the medical profession, but he also earned money that he could learn how to manage and have savings for when he went to college. Taking a gap year can also strengthen your resume. Just think about all that high school student now has to talk about on his resume, as well as in interviewing in regard to his experiences working as an EMT. Also, during a gap year, it can be a good time to travel. Maybe not as much during a pandemic, but if you're an underclassman and you're considering, should I take a gap year, maybe between college and graduate school, then that's something that you can start planning on, is that travel. Because hopefully by then, we will be in a position to pick up where we left off in that regard.
This is great, Glenda. And we have like 1 more minute for gap year. So would you please maybe summarize what you would like to end with?
Okay. So in thinking about those pros, you also have to think about the cons. And so thinking about what is it that you need to know? Do you need to know your university's policies? Do you need to know about financial aid and how those policies and that financial aid may be impacted if you decide to take a gap year during college? So
yeah, that's a really good point.
So think about, what is your plan?
Thank you, Glenda. We really appreciate you coming in today, and students who are in the College of Engineering, you will be able to follow up with Glenda through EPAC. If you are sophomores, through seniors. If you are a freshman, all of our freshmen in EPAC have an opportunity to get involved in career identity like you heard earlier. So Big Wolfpack, thank you to Glenda. Have an awesome afternoon, my friend. It was lovely to see you. Sorry you had some tech issues, but it happens, and you had some great information. All right, students, we are cranking it down to the last few minutes. And what I want to end with is I want to show you the coolest thing that one of my students did with this screen share that I'm about to give you. And this is gonna be, I'm so glad you stayed till the end, because like, drum roll on this. This is gonna be something I want you all to do. All right, so I am now back to LinkedIn, and we had so many good questions on LinkedIn. I know Courtney and Sari and Grant were like, type, you know. So Isabel, she was a student who graduated last May. She was panicking because she's graduating during a pandemic. So I suggested as part of our class that she post a YouTube commercial about herself on LinkedIn and then tag various places that she wanted to work. This is one of the things I was mentioning to you earlier, how important it is to be active on LinkedIn so that people see that you're involved. Like Gabby had that great article, and Devon had all of those wonderful artifacts. Well, this is a YouTube that any of you can create. You can do it on Zoom if you would like to. Grant has also done one of these, and when I'm done, I might give him a chance to say what tips he has. But let me just show you. This was posted on LinkedIn, and she had hundreds of comments and likes and got an amazing job as a result. So let's take a look at Isabel.
Hello, my name is Isabel Rocco, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity today to share a little bit about myself, my strengths, some unique qualities that I can bring to your organization virtually today. So some quick, fast facts about me. I am majoring in communications with a concentration in public relations and a minor in nonprofit studies. I'm graduating this May from NC State University, and I've gained experience in both the public and private sector through various internships in the marketing field. I've worked heavily in the nonprofit sector and also have TA'd, and I'll get a little bit more into those experiences in depth later on. My Myers-Briggs is an ESFJ. I'm extroverted, sensing, feeling, and judgment. And then I am also just searching for a job in the communications field. I would love to also work in the nonprofit sector if possible, and I have some experience in higher education, so I'm really interested in that field as well. So diving a little bit deeper into my previous work experience, I am the current marketing.
So I'm going to pause here, but I wanted you to see a peek of that. And like I said, if you just type her name in on LinkedIn, you can connect to her and say, I saw you in my boot camp today. She is doing an amazing job in communications right now. She is very successful. This seems bold. This seems like it's going to take a lot of time, but you can do it. You are the overachievers. You are the go-getters. You would not be here the week before school starts listening to a 3-hour webinar unless you were super motivated. And let me tell you, you're already standing out from the pack. So I wanted to give you that tip today. And again, like I was kind of speeding up her voice. Y'all never do that when you listen to my videos in my class, I know. But the cool thing about this presentation is what's important about me. It's so much. It's almost like a mini interview right here on a link. It's posted as an article, and all of these professionals are like, that girl is a standout. And of course, that's what they said. Also want to show you the SoundCloud links I was referring to earlier. So I'm switching tabs back over to the podcast. This is a really great one to listen to for career fairs. This is the great one to listen to if you were hoping you were going to get a lot of tips on how to find a job or internship during a pandemic. You will get it by listening to this one. It was a few months ago, but it was chocked full of wonderful information. And oh yeah, this is the YouTube account. So I want to open that really quick to show you that if you go to my YouTube, if you just type my name in YouTube, you can go ahead and see about 70 different 10-minute videos. And this is the one where I talk about all of the different career readiness traits that I mentioned earlier. Also have a great Twitter account. There I am pictured with my lovely mask on. If you just want to be inspired and find out about some things that are happening weekly, it's Wolfpack Career Chats. Let's see what other tabs. Ooh, these were all the questions that you asked earlier. Thank you all for posting those on Padlet. And with that, we're going to finish early. I know you guys love it. You're never sad when you get extra time, and maybe because it's a pretty day, you can walk outside. But I want to turn back to Courtney Mulvaney and ask her, well, first, Grant, do you want to say anything about posting the YouTube on your LinkedIn before we wrap up with Courtney?
Yeah, so I think it's a great opportunity because the pandemic has allowed a lot of us to learn how to use Zoom, and Zoom is a good tool to make your video with, since you can make like a little presentation and then screen share and record yourself doing a little personal branding introduction. And you know, it doesn't have to be something that looks like it was produced by a professional or anything like that. But I think it has the opportunity to impress a lot of people when when someone would watch it and be like, wow, they took the time to, make this video. It's not something that's pretty conventional. It's something that very few people do. So I think that it would be well worth your time. And you can find resources online on how to make a good video.
Yeah, or you can email Grant. Grant's like, yay, hundreds of people will be emailing me. But, all the resources are online. Some people use YouTube, some people use Zoom, whatever tool you like. All right, so let's get back to you, Courtney. You want to let people know what else is coming up. Of course, we've talked about CareerCon, but there's more, right?
We always have stuff going on. I think that that's kind of what I'm closing with. Y'all had a lot of great questions and a lot of very specific questions. So I want to show you some of those things that I kept repeating in the answers, and some of the other programs that we do have in our office in the Career Development Center. So I am going to actually share my screen, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, Courtney was going crazy with your questions. I don't know how you kept it together.
I mostly did. So awesome. So here is our website, and our website is where you are going to find all of our information. And I mentioned EPAC a lot. You will find the link to EPAC on our website. When you have questions, you also can email us directly. Our contact information is down here. We are the Career Development Center. But some of the things that we talked about most was the career guide, making appointments on EPAC, and then some of our other programs. So exploring careers is where you will find information like the career identity program that we spoke about, as well as our career assessment, which is the Focus 2, which is free for you to take as an NC State student. It can help give you some new ideas about what kind of careers and majors might be a good fit for you. So if you're not sure where to start, career identity and the career assessments are a great place. Gain Experience has a lot of information about how to get ready and really prepare for those careers. So the career guide is kind of your go-to document PDF for all things career related. Resume examples, cover letter examples, information on the career readiness competencies. Pretty much everything we do is a nice little snack of it in the career guide. In addition, I mentioned Pack Pros. If you like videos, short, snappy, from career ambassadors, not just us, so some of your peers can teach you about some of those topics in depth on demand. And you can earn your Pack Pro certification, which is also a nice resume booster for those of you looking to add more experience to your resume. We also have the co-op program, the Rural Works program, and many video tutorials that you can find on our website for your use. So I want you to know that information is out there and readily accessible for you who have those great questions. And you can always meet with a career counselor. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is just by typing in something as simple as go.ncsu.edu/EPAC or literally Googling EPAC. When you do that, this is the site you'll see. You choose the student, and then that's going to allow you to sign in with your Unity credentials. EPAC really is your go-to place to search for jobs, internship opportunities, co-op opportunities, and like I said, to make an appointment with your career counselor. We're here, we're starting to take appointments, and you are going to be able to meet with someone who can help you with your individual problems. So I'm really glad I got to answer your questions today, and I'm going to turn it back over to Marcy to close us out.
That was really helpful, Courtney. And another thing that students can do is our drop-ins, right? And Glenda, I think, is still here. I'm just checking in with her because she might even be able to tell us. I think drop-ins start the first day of school. Can you tell us what those are and how students take advantage of them?
Okay. Yes, the Career Development Center offers drop-in hours every day that class is in session. And so next Tuesday, January 19th, the first day of class, the Career Development Center's drop-in hours will begin. They will be Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. and they will be done virtually. And so when you go to our website, as Courtney just showed you, the Career Development Center website, there will be, there's information there on making appointments, and there's information on drop-in hours. And there will be a link there to the virtual drop-in hours. And so you'll click that link and drop in between 1 and 3, and there will be a career counselor there to answer your questions.
Thank you, Glenda. Your internet is a little bit glitchy, but we got the gist of it. And Courtney maybe can pop the link in for drop-ins. Like Glenda said, every day school's in session, 1 to 3. You can go to this link, and I'm guessing you're in a waiting room, and then you'll get invited in when it's your time. So it's kind of a first come, first serve thing. We used to do it in person, and now we're doing it all virtual. So many resources. All right, so I want to tell you, I promise I'm finishing 5 minutes early, but I have like something really important to end with. So I want you all to pull out your phone. All right, you all have your phone attached to you. I know you do. And what I want you to do is I want you to go to wherever you take notes on your phone. It could be your calendar. I use mine in Google Keep. I love we're Google Campus. So I just open Google Keep and I can take a picture of a recipe or whatever I want to remember, a restaurant somebody tells me, and I color code all this information, and it's like up in the cloud for me forever. So start a new note. I want you to write down the number one thing you're going to do after today's session during the month of January. One thing you're going to do. Maybe it's going to be, what is today, Wednesday? Maybe it's going to be Thursday or Friday. I know you're all moving in, doing crazy stuff. You're busy. What is one thing you're going to do? Maybe it's go on to Career Shift and email an alum. Maybe it's update your LinkedIn profile. Maybe it's make an appointment with a career counselor. Maybe it's register for CareerCon. So that is going to be your accountability note. You can write it on a Post-it if you're old-fashioned, or you can type it in your phone. Also want to remind you, this is kind of this is my to-do list. If I don't put it on my list, it does not get done. It's got to be on my calendar. Also, Instagram. I know a lot of you love hanging out on Instagram. Follow the Career Development Center on Instagram. Here is our post for today. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a really great picture of Catherine, who was on the video. It says to check it out. All the things posted on Instagram are run by students, and there are new weekly stories. So that's just another great way when you're on your phone scrolling through social media to just make sure you are staying involved. Now, the last thing, I told you I was going to end with what is the number one thing, if you read my email, that you should do to make yourself more marketable during a pandemic. The number one thing. So I am going to pop a link into the chat right now, which is called How Do I Access LinkedIn Learning as an NC State Community Member? So I am copying now. And I'm going to send this to all of you. Before I was just sending things to my panelists. And thank you, Sari, for telling me I need to send that to all students. So here is the link. Oh, there's the link to the, thank you, Courtney, for the Instagram. Here is the link I want you to copy and paste and put wherever you need in another window. This tells you how to access LinkedIn Learning. The number one thing you can do during this pandemic to make yourself stand out, this is the link I just sent you, and we're going to go back to our LinkedIn. Once you join, based on the LinkedIn instructions on that page, you will have this magical button on your LinkedIn. It costs thousands of dollars to get it if you're not at a university or company that has purchased it. These are all professional development credentials you can gain while you're a student, and you can post them on your resume or on your LinkedIn. Now, for me, I'm apparently needing to write with proper punctuation, or maybe that's just popular, but that's coming up. How to make work more meaningful. Sounds good to me. Data-driven decision-making for business professionals. So I also have a section here where it shows me all the things that I've already done, because I like to walk my dog. By the way, he's a Shetland sheepdog named Mojo, and listen to these when I am outside on a beautiful day. So here it says top picks for Marcy. Well, it doesn't surprise me that it's something about leadership, something about project management, resume. Yes, I like talking about resumes. Credibility as a speaker. As you know, I do lots of speaking. What's trending now on LinkedIn Learning? Ooh, cool. Well, how to rock the interview. I kind of think that would be a good one to listen to, but y'all know it because you listened today. Also, learn communication. Okay, this is just like an example for you. This is, you might be going, I'm taking classes. I don't have time to do LinkedIn Learning on top of it. And that's okay. But you could do a couple modules in the next weekend before classes start on Tuesday. So that's what I want to leave you with, Wolfpack fans. LinkedIn Learning. I'm so grateful that you came today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for making this program so meaningful with all of your questions. This might be the first webinar you've ever gone to before because you've been in Zoom meetings. And many people were saying, what do I wear? And I was like, I don't care what you're wearing. You could see I was barefoot because I was doing yoga because I'm not going to see you. Thank you to Grant. Thank you to Sari. Thank you to Courtney and Glenda who are still here. And we are going to end now, friends. Take care. Go Pack.